Ever get that little flutter of nerves right before you need to speak English, maybe in a test or meeting someone new, and you're just not quite sure how to confidently get the ball rolling?
Yeah, that moment of hesitation.
Exactly. Well, today on the deep dive, we're zeroing in on that exact feeling. We've taken a really close look at some insightful information about how high-level English speakers nail their opening lines, specifically in the IELTS speaking test. Think of this as like your fast track to sounding more fluent and, in command right from the very first words you speak.
Definitely. And for this session, we've dug into an analysis from the IELTS Advantage YouTube channel. They've done some really great work breaking down lots of high-scoring speaking performances. They pinpointed the opening strategies that consistently seem to work best for different kinds of questions.
Right. And our goal today for you, the listener, is really to pull out the most practical, the most immediately useful techniques, stuff to help you feel more ready and, well, less overwhelmed when you're facing spoken English questions.
Yeah, finding those little aha moments.
Exactly. The ones that just make it clear how to approach different conversational situations with confidence.
So to give you a clear picture of what we'll cover, we're going to explore several common types of questions, the ones you're pretty likely to run into.
Okay.
Things like questions about your preferences, your opinions, talking about past experiences, hypothetical scenarios.
Those tricky ones.
Yeah, and those nuanced it depends questions too. Plus simpler personal questions, deeper analytical ones, and how to bring in personal examples effectively. And for each type, we'll highlight the best ways to kick off your response, all based on this detailed analysis we looked at.
Okay, sounds great. Let's dive in then. First up, preferences. You know the sort of question, right? Like, do you prefer to study in the morning or at night?
Classic.
Yeah. And the analysis looked at different ways people start answering this. Turns out some ways are much more common among the high scorers. Things like just, yes, definitely, or actually my preference changes, or even I used to prefer. They weren't the top strategies.
No. And what's really fascinating here, a key insight, is that the most effective way, used by a pretty significant chunk, 37% of those high-scoring candidates, is a direct modal statement. So phrases like, I'd say I generally prefer mornings simply because.
Using would or I'd rather.
Exactly. I'd rather study in the morning because.
Yeah.
Using those modal verbs like would, could, might right at the start.
That's interesting. Why do you think that specific strategy works so well? Why is it so common?
Well, it seems starting with that direct modal statement, it just gives immediate clarity. It also kind of projects confidence, decisiveness, which examiners probably see as signs of, higher proficiency.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So connecting it to the bigger picture for preferences, they like a direct answer than the reason?
Pretty much. So the key takeaway for you listening is start by clearly stating your preference, maybe using I'd say or I'd rather, and then explain why.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to opinions then. A typical question might be something like, do you think children should learn to cook at school? And again, like with preferences, there were ways people started that just weren't as common among the top performers, like a really plain, yes, I completely agree.
Right. What seems key for opinion questions is using natural fillers first, followed by a really clear statement of your view. The analysis found beginnings like, well, in my opinion, it depends on, or actually, I think children should definitely learn. So those were very common.
Okay, so well or actually. What's the thinking there? Why add the filler?
I think it just makes the response sound more like a natural conversation, less like you're reading a prepared script.
Yeah.
That little, well, actually, it gives you just a tiny pause, maybe to gather your thoughts before you state your opinion directly.
That's a good point. So those little conversational bits make it smoother, more natural.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
The takeaway here is to get comfortable using words like, well, actually, or similar things just to lead into your opinion statement.
Okay. Next up, talking about past experiences. Imagine being asked, describe a time when you traveled somewhere new. Now, some people might start off with a general comment about travel, maybe. But the high-level speakers in this analysis, they tended to be more direct.
Yeah, what's really striking here is the strong tendency, we're talking over 60% of candidates at band 7 and above, to start with a direct recall statement.
Okay, like what?
Phrases like, well, I remember last year I visited, or it happened when I went to, or even, back in 2019 I had the opportunity to.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It immediately signals you're about to tell a specific story from the past. And it tells the examiner you're probably going to use the right tense, the past tense.
Exactly. Starting with, I remember, or it happened when, you're directly answering, setting the scene for a story, and showing you've got control over past tense grammar. So the listener takeaway. When asked about a past experience, start with a phrase that clearly signals you're recalling something specific.
Okay, let's talk hypothetical questions now. Thinking about something like, if you could live in any city, where would you choose?
The if questions.
Yeah. And apparently there were some less effective, maybe even grammatically wrong ways people started these, like, I definitely live in London, or I will live.
Right, missing the hypothetical nature. The clear trend here, used by about 55% of high-level speakers, was using would plus a verb. That clearly shows you're talking about an imaginary situation.
So, like, I would probably choose London because...
Exactly. Or, I would definitely opt for a city with. Using would correctly.
And why is getting that grammar right in the opening so crucial here?
Well, it immediately shows your control over the language, right?
Wow.
Avoids any confusion about whether you're talking real or imaginary. Accuracy matters.
Right. Accuracy and appropriateness for the context.
Yeah.
Key parts of communication.
Absolutely. So the listener takeaway for hypotheticals is pretty straightforward. Make sure you use would correctly to signal you're talking about something unreal or imagined.
Okay. Now for those sometimes tricky, it depends questions. The ones where there isn't really a single right answer, you need to show you can see different sides.
Yeah, the balanced view questions. What's interesting is how the top speakers signal that balance right away. While some might just jump to one viewpoint, the analysis found phrases like, well, it depends on the person, because were used by about 31% of the top scorers.
Oh, I can see why that works. It immediately tells the examiner, okay, this person isn't going to give a simple answer. They're acknowledging complexity.
Exactly. It shows you can think critically, consider different angles. That's a valuable skill. And like the analysis pointed out, you can then expand on that, explore the different sides, maybe offer your own view within that. Using if can also help develop these answers.
Right.
So the takeaway for it depends questions. Use phrases like it depends to show you see multiple sides and then go on to explain those different perspectives.
Okay. Let's switch gears a bit to simpler part one questions. Those more personal, direct ones like, where do you live?
The basics.
You might feel tempted to launch into a long, detailed story, but the analysis suggests something different.
Yeah, what's really noteworthy here is the emphasis on directness. Over 65%, a big majority of Band 8 and 9 students, kept their Part 1 answers simple, straightforward.
So just like C.
Something like, I live in Manchester, and it's quite a vibrant city. Or, I study in London, which I find really stimulating. Direct answer first, maybe a little extra detail after.
So no need to try and overcomplicate the opening for these basic personal things.
Exactly. Examiners actually appreciate that clarity and conciseness for these questions. Trying to sound too elaborate in Part 1 can actually come across as unnatural.
Or like you're trying too hard.
Yeah, maybe trying to overcompensate. So the listener takeaway is clear. Simple personal questions. Give it a direct answer first. Start clear. You can add a bit more, but start direct.
Okay. Now let's move to the deeper Part 3 questions, the more analytical ones, like, why do some people choose to live in cities rather than rural areas? This needs a more thought-out response, right?
Absolutely. And the way high-level speakers often begin reflects that need for more thought. The analysis found that using short bridging phrases works well. Phrases that acknowledge the question's depth, followed by an opinion or explanation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, that's an interesting question. I think some people enjoy the convenience. Or, that's a complex issue. Perhaps one reason is this approach was seen in about 46% of the top scoring Part 3 responses.
That makes a lot of sense. It signals you've actually, processed the question, not just jumping in. Probably gives you a second to think, too.
It definitely does. It shows the examiner you understand it needs more analysis. So the takeaway for these complex questions: start by briefly acknowledging the complexity. That's interesting. That's complex. Before you offer your reasoned explanation.
Right. What about when you need to give a personal example? Say, you're asked, can you give an example of when you learned something new? How do the top speakers usually lead into those?
The analysis suggests that simple, direct lead-ins are the most common. Things like, certainly, for example, last year I. Or, sure, a good example of that would be when I. These kinds of openings were used by around 39% of successful speakers, often with little bridging words like sure or certainly.
It sounds very natural, doesn't it? Almost like how you'd start telling a story to a friend. Didn't the source mention a coffee shop analogy? Like, how would you start telling a story in a casual chat?
Exactly that. You wouldn't just launch into all the details immediately. You'd probably use a little bridge like, oh yeah, actually, or let me think. Yes, for example.
Yeah.
So the listener takeaway is pretty simple. Use a natural bridging phrase, maybe for example or something similar, just to smoothly introduce your personal stories.
Okay. And finally, the big one. What should you do if you get a question and you honestly just don't know much about the topic? It feels really tempting sometimes to just say, I have no idea.
Yeah, it does. But the analysis is quite clear. Directly refusing or just saying, I have no idea, is generally not the best move. It can unfortunately give the examiner the impression that your overall English ability might be a bit limited.
Okay, so what's a better approach then?
Yeah.
If you're genuinely stuck on the topic?
Well, the analysis showed that a huge majority, 90% of high-scoring candidates actually attempt an answer, even if they're unsure.
How do they do that?
They use phrases that signal uncertainty but still offer something, like, I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to guess, or, it might depend on, perhaps my understanding is.
So you acknowledge you're not an expert, but you still try.
Exactly. It shows you have enough English skill to speculate, to explain your thinking, even if your knowledge on that specific topic is limited. The really crucial takeaway here for you, the listener, is even if you feel uncertain, try to offer something. An opinion, a guess. Use phrases that show you're speculating. Remember, it's primarily a test of your communication skills in English, not necessarily a test of your expert knowledge on every possible subject under the sun.
Okay, so if we boil it all down, the main idea here isn't about finding one magic phrase for everything, is it?
Not at all.
It's more about choosing an opening that fits the question type, being accurate with grammar, and sounding natural like you're actually having a conversation.
That sums it up perfectly. Appropriateness, accuracy, and naturalness. Those are the keys.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to sort of mull over. Think about how consciously trying out just one or two of these opening strategies could actually affect your confidence, maybe the whole flow of your next English conversation.
Yeah, what kind of little breakthroughs, those aha moments, might you have just by changing how you start?
Maybe start paying attention to how proficient English speakers begin their responses, in podcasts, shows, conversations you hear.
Good idea. You'll likely start spotting some of these effective patterns we've talked about.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.
We really hope these insights give you a valuable, maybe even a bit of a shortcut to feeling more confident and communicating more effectively. Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, dig in, and pull out the insights you need.
That's right.
Today, our focus is on the learner who wants to level up their spoken English, but, without getting totally swamped.
Exactly. And the learner gave us a great source, the J. Forrest English YouTube video, 1-hour lesson, IELTS full vocabulary course.
Okay.
So our mission really is to extract those practical, actionable bits for improving vocabulary and fluency day to day, not just prepping for a test.
Love it. Okay, practical strategies. So the video starts with, the classic question. Where do you live?
The basics.
And the basic answer, I was born and raised in city. Grammatically, that's super simple, right? Past tensivity, solid start.
Absolutely solid. It's clear, it's simple, but what's great is how the video immediately shows you how to build on that.
Right.
Adding just a little bit more. I was born and raised in city, but now I live in city region. It's a small step, but it adds a layer.
It does, gives it a bit more story. And then it gets into talking about how long you've lived somewhere, using the present perfect.
Yes. I've lived here for over 10 years. That present perfect tells you it started in the past, but it's still true now. That connection to the present is key.
Yeah, still active. And there's that related tense too, the present perfect continuous.
Right. I've been living here for over 10 years. The video points out, and this is interesting, it's typically used with just live work and study.
Oh, okay.
It sort of emphasizes the ongoing, continuous nature of the action.
Gotcha. And it also clarified using for 10 years, specific time, versus for several years, more general.
Exactly. Painting that clearer picture of the time involved.
So for you, the learner, this first bit shows how you can take a simple answer and just layer in more sophisticated grammar to say more, basically.
Precisely. Start comfortable, then add those elements strategically. It sounds much more natural.
Okay, let's shift gears to talking about work. One of the first things, and it seems small, but it's huge, is articles. Job titles.
Oh, yeah. So common.
It flags the correct I'm an engineer versus the incorrect I'm engineer.
It's one of those details that really polytomize your English, and it covers using the, too, for those unique roles, like I'm the executive director.
Right, or when the context makes the organization clear.
Although you don't always need to name the company when you use a or an.
Okay, now here's something I found really useful. Using gerund statements. That sounds fancy, but the example makes it clear. Instead of, I am an engineer and it's rewarding, you say, being an engineer is rewarding. Starting with being. That feels more advanced somehow.
It does. And being there is acting like a noun, a gerund. It lets you talk about the idea or the experience of being an engineer.
Right.
The structure's pretty simple. Gerund, then the verb, then the rest. And the video gives great examples with verbs about what you enjoy.
Like, I love using my analytical skills.
Exactly. Or, I enjoy collaborating with my team. It sounds much more engaged.
And then it encourages adding adjectives, making the descriptions richer. Like, not just brainstorming solutions, but brainstorming unique solutions to complex problems.
It adds that texture, that detail, makes it more vivid.
Yeah. And it also mentions using transition words, little connectors like however for contrast or specifically to give details.
Those are like little signposts for your listener, helping them follow along. Super important for clarity.
And I like the idiom they included. Work around the clock.
Ah, yes, working nonstop.
Using idioms like that, it shows a deeper feel for the language, doesn't it? More natural.
Definitely. And these work strategies, they're not just for an exam context. They're useful everywhere. Networking, interviews, just office chat, presenting yourself clearly.
Totally. Okay, let's move to hobbies. The video suggests starting with a gerund statement, like sharing your general opinion first.
Yeah, like in my opinion, having hobbies is integral to living a fulfilling life.
Why do you think that's a good way to start? Seems a bit formal, maybe.
Well, it shows you've thought about it more broadly. It adds a bit of perspective before you just list things. And it reminds us of other ways to give opinions, too.
Right. In my view, from my perspective, personally, I think, variety is good.
Definitely. And then, to show you're really keen on a hobby, it introduces to be an avid plus noun.
I'm an avid reader or traveler. Avid really punches it up, shows passion.
Exactly. It adds that intensity. Then it shows using those gerunds again to explain why you enjoy it. Starting with the activity.
Hiking gives me the opportunity to.
Or starting with the noun form, guitar gives me the opportunity to. Same idea, different structure.
Okay, but what if you don't really have hobbies right now? Maybe you're too busy.
The video has a really smart approach for that. You can use the present perfect to explain. Until now, my focus has been on my career.
That makes sense. It's honest.
Yeah, gives a reason. Then you pivot to the future. However, I'm considering taking up hobby. And it flags the grammar, consider, plus the doing form.
And take up that phrasal verb for starting something new.
Right. Or the alternative.
However, I'd love to take up hobby. Using would love plus the base verb, that feels maybe a bit more aspirational.
It does. And even if you're not doing it yet, you can talk about the future benefit using the future simple with a gerund statement.
Like, drawing will give me the opportunity to relax.
Exactly. So even without a current hobby, you can still talk about it articulately, focusing on priorities and future plans.
Okay, family next. The video introduces a great adjective. Close-knit.
Oh, that's a lovely one. Describes families with really strong bonds.
Yeah, or the simpler phrase, my family and I are very close. Same meaning, really conveys warmth.
It does. Close-knit is very efficient, packs a lot of meaning in. And a quick grammar reminder.
Ah, yes, everyone. Looks plural, but it's singular.
Right. Everyone gets along, not everyone get along.
And then there's that brilliant expression for resemblance. Take after.
Yes. Meaning you look or act like someone usually older.
I take after my dad with his terrible jokes. Something like that.
Exactly. Or she takes after her mother in terms of her artistic talent. It covers looks and personality. It's just very natural, very common.
Why do you think it's so common?
That's a good question. I think because it's idiomatic, it sounds less like a textbook definition and more like, well, how people actually talk about family connections. It suggests that deeper link.
Makes sense. Okay. Shifting to travel. Expressing the desire to go somewhere.
Right. I'd love the opportunity to see a landmark, or I'd love the opportunity to travel to or visit a place.
The prepositions. See a thing, travel to a place. Got to watch those.
They can be tricky. Precision matters. And for hypothetical travel.
The second conditional. If I could travel anywhere, I would choose. Shows you can handle those what-if scenarios.
Yep, more complex grammar. And for talking about travel dreams, those gerund statements again.
Visiting Japan is at the top of my list. Simple enough.
But then you can elevate it using the present perfect for a long-held dream.
Right. Traveling to Japan has been at the top of my list for as long as I can remember. That adds that feeling of time, of longing.
Exactly. Adds that dimension. And to explain why, use opinion words.
From my perspective, Mount Fuji is just breathtaking. Something like that.
Perfect. Reinforces your reason. And finally, for travel, that really advanced expression.
Revel in the opportunity to, like really soak it up and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd revel in the opportunity to explore ancient Mayan ruins. It's much stronger than just enjoy. Shows real vocabulary depth.
Okay, and then there was that bonus section. Clarification phrases. These are gold.
Absolutely lifesavers. When you stumble or think maybe you weren't clear.
Phrases like, what I'm trying to say is, or what I mean is.
To put it another way, in other words,
Yeah.
The advice is spot on. Pick a couple you like and practice them.
Makes sense. Get comfortable with them.
It just smooths out the conversation, shows you're actively trying to be clear, which is great.
Okay, let's get into transition words. The video calls them the glue, holding ideas together. Makes sense. Makes you sound more organized, more advanced.
And the way it categorizes them is super helpful for learning. Cause and effect first.
Ranging from formal, like consequently, hence,
Down to more everyday ones like so, since, because. And it reminds you to match the formality to the situation. Crucial point.
then chronology showing order, firstly, then maybe next, afterwards, and wrapping up with finally, lastly. The key is variety, right? Don't just say first, second, third.
Exactly. Mix it up. For contrast, you've got however, although, though, and just plain but. Again, different levels of formality.
And for adding points. Furthermore, moreover, down to also and.
When you want to speak generally, there are great phrases like in general, generally speaking, by and large, most of the time.
Giving examples. For example, for instance, easy enough.
For emphasis. In fact, as a matter of fact, adds a bit of punch.
And then wrapping up conclusions. Lots of options here too. Formal in conclusion, to summarize, down to informal, so to wrap up, all in all.
And what's really good is how it shows you using them together, building a more complex point by linking different types.
Yeah, like start general, add contrast, give an example, explain why, add another point. It encourages you to actually use them actively.
Exactly. That's the key active use.
Okay, next up, opinion words. Also crucial for sounding natural and fluent, not just stating facts. And again, the categories help.
Totally. First, sharing your opinion. Lots of choices. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective.
Even stronger ones like I strongly believe or there's no doubt in my mind that. The advice to pick a few favorites to start with seems smart. Don't try to memorize all of them at once.
Good advice. Then agreeing. Simple. I agree. I think so too. Up to more enthusiastic ones.
Absolutely. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Or that idiom, you hit the nail on the head.
Nice one. And for agreeing with a negative statement, like, I don't think that's right.
Neither do I. Very useful little phrase.
Then disagreeing. This is handled really well. It gives direct options, but also emphasizes softer ways.
Right, like, I'm afraid I disagree. Or acknowledging their point first. I see where you're coming from, but. Or, I respect your opinion, but. Much more polite sometimes.
Definitely smoother in many situations. Then there's sharing a general opinion, things people often say.
It's said that. It's believed that. Most people agree that.
Useful for introducing common ideas before you maybe agree or disagree with them yourself, using the phrases we just talked about.
And finally, asking for someone else's opinion. So important for conversation.
Essential. From simple, what do you think, or do you agree, to what's your take on it, or what are your thoughts?
Or even asking about their experience. Has that been your experience? How do you see the situation? Loads of options to keep the conversation flowing.
It's a really comprehensive toolkit for opinions, and the suggestion to practice in the comments is great immediate application.
Okay, now this next bit I found fascinating. Transforming a basic daily routine description into something advanced, like C1 level. It's like a language makeover show.
Huh. It really is. It takes Mark's routine and breaks down the specific vocabulary and grammar that make it sound so much more sophisticated.
So instead of I wake up at 6:30, it's the alarm rings at 6:30 a.m. signaling, using that present participle, signaling, and adding with precision.
Yeah, and instead of he organizes his morning, it's with precision he orchestrates the morning routine ensuring. Orchestrates is such a better verb there, more evocative.
And the sense is Not just the smell of coffee, but the aroma of coffee. Aroma feels nicer, more positive.
Definitely. And we see more of those ing forms used as modifiers, like reviewing his schedule, preparing for the day, or leading his team, motivating them.
Right, and more advanced vocabulary pops up everywhere. Mark transitions into his managerial role, not just starts his job.
Back-to-back Zoom meetings instead of just many meetings. Paints a clearer picture of the intensity.
And Mark excels in conveying intricate ideas, so much stronger than he's good at communicating complex ideas.
Absolutely. Even the end of the day gets upgraded as the workday concludes, not ends, and idioms like races against the clock.
Habits become integral parts of their routine, not just important. Sounds more significant.
And describing the evening cherishes the moments of connection instead of just enjoys time. Reunites in collective activities instead of spends quality time.
And instead of a walk, it's a stroll. And the video points out those complex sentences using as to connect clauses.
Right. As the clock inches towards bedtime, great phrasing, Mark carves out a brief period for personal reflection. Carves out suggests making special time for it.
Even getting into bed. Not gets into bed, but slips into his comfortable bed and savors the tranquility that descends upon his home.
Wow. It's beautifully descriptive. The contrast really shows the impact of richer vocabulary and more varied sentence structures. It's a great model for you, the learner, to aim for.
Definitely something to study and try to adapt. Okay. Next, verb tenses. This is super practical. The video claims just 5 tenses make up over 96% of native speech. Is that right?
That's the figure cited, and it makes a lot of sense. Focusing on these 5 gives you massive coverage.
So what are they?
Okay, number 1 by far is present simple, over 57%. Used for routines, habits, facts, feelings, schedules.
Got it. Basic structure, add eds for he, she. Adverbs like always, often, sometimes.
Exactly. Number 2, past simple, almost 20%, for completed actions at a specific past time. Keywords, yesterday, last week, in 2010, ago.
Simple past tense, regular ed or irregular verbs. Check.
Number 3, future simple using will, about 8.5%. For predictions based on opinion, spontaneous decisions, promises, offers, often used with those opinion words we talked about.
Right. I think it will rain.
Yep. Number 4, present perfect, about 6%. Structure is have or has, plus the past participle.
Okay, uses.
Completed past action with a present result, life experience within an unfinished time, have you ever, and actions started in the past, continuing now, but remember, mainly with live work study for that last one.
And the big rule, no specific past time. Can't say, I have finished it yesterday.
Exactly. Use past simple for that. I finished it yesterday. Crucial difference.
Okay, and number 5.
Present continuous, just over 5%. Amisar plus verbing for actions happening right now or planned future actions.
Like, I am speaking now, or I am meeting her tomorrow.
Perfect. The video mentions native speakers sometimes use it with always for annoying habits, like he's always losing his keys, but advises learners maybe stick to present simple with always for clarity.
Okay, good tip. So mastering these 5 is really the core of fluency.
It provides a very strong foundation, absolutely.
For the final section, really practical tips for thinking and speaking in English simultaneously. Tip 1. Surround yourself with English.
Immerse your environment. Sticky notes on objects, English to-do lists, change your phone language, constant exposure.
Tip 2. Use that wasted time. Working out, showering, commuting.
Turn it into productive time by actively thinking in English. Narrate what you're doing. Plan your day in English in your head.
Tip 3. Make simple observations. Look around. Describe what you see in English. Mindfulness meets language practice.
Yeah, at the park. There's a dog. The dog is running. Simple stuff.
Tip 4 builds on that. Add complexity. Don't just stop at simple sentences. Add adjectives, adverbs, opinions.
The dog is running quickly. In my opinion, it looks very happy. Start simple, then layer it.
Tip 5. Use images. Find pictures online. Practice describing them simple first, then complex. Good short exercise.
5 or 10 minutes a day really helps build that descriptive muscle.
Tip 6. Speak out loud. Verbalize those thoughts and observations, even if you're alone.
Builds confidence in actually producing the language. Pretend you're on the phone if you feel silly.
Good idea. Tip 7. A daily recap. Summarize your day in English.
Think about it, speak it, or journal it. What did you do? Past tense. What was the best part? What are you grateful for? What could be better? Plan for tomorrow. Future tense. Great practice.
Uses all the skills. 10 minutes before bed, maybe journaling.
Excellent habit. And the final tip, number 8. Crucial.
Be patient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes time. Aim for that 1% improvement daily. It adds up massively over a year. Don't expect miracles overnight, but trust the process. Consistency is key.
Noticeable results after 30 days, good after 60, great after 90. It builds.
Precisely. Commitment pays off.
So, wrapping up our deep dive for you, the learner. We've covered a lot. Vocabulary for common topics using transition and opinion words effectively.
Looked at transforming simple descriptions into advanced ones, drilled down on those 5 key verb tenses, and shared really practical tips for thinking and speaking in English.
We really hope this gives you some clear, actionable strategies to work with to help you move beyond those basic phrases and sound more confident, more fluent, more you in English.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe take a moment now to think about just 1 or 2 things from this discussion that really click for you. How could you start using them, like today or tomorrow?
Good call. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Language learning is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about all this, what's one small, consistent action you can commit to starting today that will move you closer to your long-term fluency goals?
That's a great question to ponder. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Ever stop to think that maybe there are colors out there that our eyes just can't see? Feels a bit sci-fi, doesn't it?
It really does. That kind of thing, yeah. But, based on what we've been looking at, it might actually be closer to reality than you'd think.
Oh.
Yeah, scientists are suggesting they found a new color. And the story's got this really unexpected link to the Wizard of Oz.
Okay, wait. A new color and the Wizard of Oz. Now I'm intrigued. So the source is a BBC News article, and it was talked about in a YouTube video.
That's right, J. Forrest English on YouTube.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, like you said, is the video uses the news piece as a way to help advanced English learners.
Right, so it's got that language angle too.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our deep dive today, we're basically trying to pull out the really fascinating bits about this potential new color, OLO, they call it, and maybe learn a bit about language nuances along the way.
Exactly. Sounds like a plan. Let's start with that headline itself. Scientists discover new color OLO, and there's a link to the Wizard of Oz.
A link to, okay.
Yeah, the video points out that phrase just tight connection, right, between the color and the story. Pretty straightforward.
And I did notice the spelling C-O-L-O-U-R, British English from the BBC.
Yep, the video mentions that too. Different spelling from the American OR, but pronunciation, usage exactly the same. Just one of those regional things.
It's funny how even a headline can teach you something. The YouTube host apparently used it to make a grammar point.
A subject-verb agreement. Learning English with the news is linked to improving my fluency. That whole first part, learning English with the news, acts like one single thing, a singular subject. So it needs is linked, not are linked.
Ah, okay. Little details like that are actually pretty useful. Now, about the discovery itself, the article says they claim to have discovered OLO. That word claim seems important.
It really is. And the video breaks that down nicely. Claim to have discovered means, well, the scientists think they have. They believe it's real. But
it's not universally accepted yet. Like, the jury's still out in the wider scientific world.
exactly. It suggests it's still maybe being debated or verified. It's different from just saying they have discovered it, which would sound much more like a done deal, a confirmed fact.
Right. It's like saying, he claims he saw Bigfoot versus he saw Bigfoot. Big difference in certainty.
Precisely. And the video also touches on the grammar around a team, a team claim versus a team claims.
Oh, yeah. I think in American English, we'd usually say a team claims, singular.
We often do, yeah. But the video notes that using the plural claim, especially in British English, isn't actually wrong. It sort of emphasizes the individual members of the team making the claim. Language is flexible,
It really is. Okay, so they claim to have found this color that no human has ever seen before.
Or no one, as the video points out. Same meaning completely new to human perception.
All right, so a potentially brand new color experience. But the Wizard of Oz part, where does the Emerald City fit into lasers and color science?
Okay, yeah, this is the fun part. It comes down to the technique they use. It's called the Oz Vision System technique.
Oz Vision System. And it involves lasers into people's eyes.
Laser pulses directed into the eyes of the participants.
Wow. Okay, that sounds pretty intense. Why call it Oz, though?
Well, the video explains it's named in homage to the Emerald City in the novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
In homage, so like as a tribute, out of respect.
Exactly, a tribute. So the researchers are kind of nodding to that iconic, super vivid green city, maybe hinting that their technique reveals something similarly striking, something beyond the ordinary.
It's actually pretty cool. A nice little nod. And the video mentioned something about how people say homage.
Oh, right, pronunciation. Some Americans might drop the H sound, oh, meech. British English speakers usually keep it H-O-M-I, but, either way works, people understand.
Good to know. Okay, so they have this Oz technique named in homage, but then the article throws in a bit of a reality check, right? The snag, it calls it.
Yeah, the snag. Turns out only 5 people, ever, have actually seen this color Olo.
Just 5. Wow, that is exclusive. And it's not like you or I could just stumble across it, is it?
No, absolutely not. It cannot be seen by the naked eye.
Naked eye, meaning just, looking normally without any special tools.
Exactly. Without telescopes, microscopes, or in this case, without that special laser stimulation setup, it highlights that Olo, if it's real, exists outside our usual visual capabilities.
So you need the high-tech gear, this laser system. What did those 5 people actually see then? What's Olo like?
It's said to be a saturated shade of blue-green. Let's break that down a bit.
Okay. Saturated means really intense, bright.
Yeah, exactly. The video explains it as intense, rich, full color. Think of like a really pale, washed out blue versus a deep, vibrant royal blue. The royal blue is much more saturated.
Got it. So Olo isn't pale or faded. It's a strong blue-green. And shade, that just means a specific version of blue-green, right? Like light blue versus dark blue.
Precisely. A specific variation or tone within that blue-green family.
Yeah.
So a very intense, specific tone of blue-green that you apparently can't see without the lasers.
Okay. Interesting. And this research came from some big names.
Yeah, UC Berkeley and the University of Washington, serious research institutions.
So how does this Oz system actually let them see it? What's happening scientifically?
Well, the idea is that the system allows people to see beyond the normal gamut of color perception.
Gamut, meaning range, like the whole range of colors we normally see.
Exactly. The video defines gamut as range or spectrum. Like a shop might offer a wide gamut of products, a big range. Or we talk about running the gamut of emotions.
Right, experiencing the full range.
So this Oz system supposedly expands that range.
Yeah.
It pushes the boundary of what colors the participants could perceive. It's like unlocking extra potential in their vision, sort of.
So our eyes have this built-in range, and this tech pushes past it. What did the researchers think when they saw the results? Were they expecting this?
Well, according to a quote from Professor Ng, one of the researchers, they kind of did. He said, "We predicted it would look like an unprecedented color signal."
Unprecedented meaning never seen or done before?
Right. But we didn't know what the brain would do with it. So they expected something new, but how our brains would actually interpret that new signal was the big question.
And how did the brain interpret it? What was the experience like for those 5 people?
Professor Ng called it jaw-dropping.
Jaw-dropping. Okay, the video explained that means really surprising or shocking, right? Could be good or bad, I guess.
It could, technically, but here, seeing a totally new color, you have to assume it was overwhelmingly positive, astonishing.
Makes sense.
And he even told the BBC, apparently, that Olo was more saturated than any color that you can see in the real world.
Whoa. More intense than anything we normally see. That's hard to even imagine.
It really is. It emphasizes how different this perceived color must be.
So, okay, it's a cool effect, but what's the point? Why develop this tech? What are the bigger implications here?
Good question. The researchers believe this Oz system will help them delve into how the brain creates visual perceptions.
Delve into. Like, investigate deeply, study thoroughly.
Exactly. That's how the video explains it. By seeing how the brain processes this completely new artificial color signal, they can learn more about the basic ways our brain builds our visual world from the light that hits our eyes. It's like studying an extreme case to understand the normal process better.
Okay, that makes sense. Push the system to its limits to see how it works. Any practical applications they're hoping for down the road?
They are. They hope it might give them insights into things like color blindness or other diseases that affect vision.
Ah, okay. So by understanding how you can maybe expand or alter color perception with this system.
Yeah, they might figure out new ways to help people who have trouble seeing colors normally or other vision issues. The video reminds us vision is the ability to see, and there's a whole spectrum, from perfect sight to legally blind and so on.
That would be amazing if this research, even if Olo itself isn't something we'll all see, could help people with vision impairments. That's really significant.
Definitely a hopeful outcome.
Now, we can't see Olo, obviously, But did they give any kind of picture, any hint of what it looks like?
They did try. They acknowledged that, a static image does not fully capture the color, but they shared a picture of a turquoise square to give a sense of the hue.
Hue. The video clarified that's like the base color, right? Blue, green, red, as opposed to shade, which is lighter or darker.
Exactly. So they're saying the basic color family is sort of turquoise-like.
Okay, so picture turquoise. But then remember, it's supposed to be way more saturated than anything real. And the article said the picture doesn't do it justice.
Right, and the video explains that phrase doesn't do it justice. It means the example, the turquoise square, it gives you an idea, a hint, but it falls short of the real thing.
Like trying to describe a stunning sunset with just words.
Exactly, or explaining how powerful a piece of music is. The description gives a general sense, but it's not the full experience, so the turquoise is just a pointer, not the actual destination, if that makes sense.
It does. It's just a rough guide towards this super saturated, maybe impossible to truly imagine blue-green.
Wow. Well, this has definitely been a fascinating look at this potential new color, Olo, and its bizarre link to Oz.
It really has been quite a journey, hasn't it? From the claim itself, that Oz technique with the lasers, the fact only 5 people have seen it, how it pushes past our normal color gamut, it really opens up questions about perception.
Yeah, and how the research might help us understand the brain, vision, maybe even color blindness eventually. Lots to think about.
Definitely.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is, if technology can potentially reveal a color that's beyond our normal biological limits, what else might be out there? What other sensory experiences could exist just outside our current grasp, waiting for us to find a way to perceive them?
That's a really interesting question. What else are we not seeing or hearing or sensing?
Makes you wonder. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something really useful for sounding more natural in English.
Yeah, we're talking about idioms specifically, those common ones English speakers use all the time to describe people.
Right. And understanding these is kind of a key, isn't it? Not just for fluency, but for really getting what people mean.
Exactly. We dove into this great YouTube lesson covering 25 of them. And our mission today isn't just, definitions.
Well, we want to explore the feel of them, the nuances.
And why knowing them helps you understand how native speakers actually talk about each other. It's often more colorful than just literal words.
Think of it like getting the inside track. Instead of just saying someone's, say, smart, you might hear something different, more evocative.
Yeah, these idioms are like shortcuts to describing personality, behavior. Adds a lot of richness.
Okay, let's get into it. We can maybe start with the ones that are generally positive. First one on the list, a people person.
Ah, yes, this is a big one. A people person, well, they genuinely like being around others, right? They're good at building relationships.
Like the example given. Jason's a real people person.
He always makes everyone feel welcome. Exactly. It's someone who sort of creates that positive vibe,
Yeah, you know the type. They just connect easily. Okay, next, a go-getter. This one sounds active.
It really does. A go-getter is ambitious, takes initiative, doesn't just sit back.
The example was something like,
The team hired him because he's a go-getter. They push projects forward. It highlights that drive, that proactive quality, which, is often valued.
Definitely. Makes you think, doesn't it? About how much emphasis is placed on that proactive drive. Okay, then there's a smart cookie. I like that one.
Me too. It's like a warmer way to say intelligent or clever, right? More casual.
Yeah, less formal than just smart.
Exactly. The example was, Emma's a smart cookie. She solved that complex problem in no time. Using cookie just makes it sound friendlier, more approachable somehow.
That's a good point. Relatable intelligence. Okay, a social butterfly. The image is great.
It really is. Someone outgoing, loves to socialize, flits from group to group.
Like a butterfly.
Yeah. The example was, as a social butterfly, Pedro always knows what's happening around the office. That, as a construction, really paints the picture.
Totally. You could just see them work in the room. Okay, what about someone known for honesty? A straight shooter.
Right. This is someone direct, honest, they tell it like it is, no messing around.
So reliable for the truth.
Pretty much. I appreciate working with Peter. He's a straight shooter. It implies you can trust what they say, which is valuable.
Definitely. Now, a jack of all trades sounds a bit old-timey, but useful.
It does have that feel sometimes. It means someone's skilled in many different things, but maybe not a deep expert in one specific area.
Like the uncle in the example who fixes computers, plumbing, cooks.
Exactly. And importantly, even though it says jack, it's used for anyone, male or female. It's about versatility.
Good clarification. It's about the range of skills. Okay, last in this positive group, a breath of fresh air. That just sounds nice.
It really captures that feeling, doesn't it? Someone or something new that brings positive energy, a refreshing change.
Like the example, working with Emily has been a breath of fresh air. She brings new ideas.
Exactly. It's like, finally something different and good.
Okay, so those are mostly positive. Now, for some, where the meaning depends a bit more, context matters. First one, a big shot.
Yeah, this one's tricky. It means someone important, influential, powerful in their field.
But the feeling can change.
Totally. Saying, don't worry, he's a big shot, might just be stating a fact, maybe even implying respect. But saying, Evelyn's been acting like a big shot since her promotion. Well, that sounds negative, right? Like she's arrogant now.
Okay. Tone and context are everything. Got it. Next, a dark horse. Sounds mysterious.
It does. A dark horse is someone nobody knows much about, but who might surprisingly succeed, often used in competitions.
Like the example. He was a dark horse in the competition, but won first place. The underdog who triumphs.
Exactly. That element of surprise is key.
Makes sense. Then, a lone wolf. We probably all know someone like this.
Yeah, someone who prefers working alone, avoids group stuff. Like, as a lone wolf, he prefers handling projects on his own.
It works for some people, but is it always the best approach?
That's the question, isn't it? Independence is good, but sometimes you miss out on collaboration, different perspectives.
True. Something to think about.
Yep.
Okay, last one in this category. A creature of habit. I might be one of these.
A lot of us are, probably. It just means someone who likes routines, doing things the same way.
And it can be neutral or slightly negative.
Yeah. Amelia is a creature of habit, so she won't like these changes, implies inflexibility.
Right.
But as a creature of habit, I eat the same breakfast every day is just descriptive. It's just how you are.
Okay, makes sense. Right. Now, for the ones that usually lean, negative, starting with a couch potato. Pretty clear, this one.
Yeah, I think we all get this. Someone who spends a lot of time inactive, watching TV, on the sofa.
Basically lazy.
Essentially, yeah. The example, don't be a couch potato, let's go for a walk, is a nudge to be more active.
Definitely not a compliment. Okay, set in one's ways. How is this different from creature of habit?
It's stronger. A creature of habit likes routine, but someone set in their ways actively resists change. They're inflexible.
Okay. More stubborn?
Kind of like the example, my grandmother is set in her ways. She refuses to use a smartphone. It's about that resistance to new things.
Got it. Then, a worrywart. We all know one, right?
Probably. Someone who worries constantly, often about small things or things that won't happen.
Like, don't tell Sarah about the client issue. She's such a worrywart.
Exactly. It points to someone prone to anxiety.
Needs to chill out a bit. Okay, a cheapskate. Ooh, this one sounds harsh.
It is. It means someone really unwilling to spend money, often seen as unreasonably stingy.
Like the popcorn example.
Yeah.
Tim brings his own popcorn to the movies. He's a cheapskate.
Yeah. It implies their frugality goes too far. It's judged negatively.
Definitely not sharing the bill with Tim. Okay, a cold fish. Doesn't sound very warm.
It's the opposite of a people person, really. Someone who seems unfriendly, emotionally distant.
Like Dan may seem like a cold fish.
But maybe he's just shy.
Right.
It suggests a lack of outward warmth or connection. But maybe there's more underneath.
You never know. Okay, a backseat driver. This one's famous, even outside of cars.
So true. Literally, it's someone nagging the driver.
Yeah.
But more broadly, anyone giving unwanted advice or trying to control things from the sidelines.
Like telling someone how to do their presentation when it's not your job.
Exactly. Stop being a backseat driver and let me handle this. It's about interference.
Makes sense. Then a busybody. Sounds annoying.
It usually is. Someone overly interested in other people's private lives, maybe gossiping or meddling.
Like the neighbor always looking over the fence in the example.
Yeah. I wish my neighbor would stop being such a busybody. It implies they cross boundaries.
Someone to avoid sharing secrets with. Okay, a wet blanket. This image is perfect.
Isn't it? Someone who just dampens everyone else's fun. Negative, unenthusiastic.
Like, it's only 9 p.m., don't be such a wet blanket. Kills the mood.
Precisely. They just bring the energy down.
We've all met one. Okay, a loose cannon. Sounds risky.
It can be. It describes someone unpredictable, impulsive, who might cause trouble without meaning to.
He's a bit of a loose cannon. We never know what he'll do next. Suggests a lack of control, maybe?
Yeah, or just unpredictability that can lead to problems.
Not ideal for delicate tasks, I guess. Speaking of delicate bag. A bull in a china shop. I think this might be me sometimes.
A lot of us feel that way. It means clumsy, careless, especially where finesse is needed.
Yeah.
China means porcelain, fragile stuff.
So likely to break things, metaphorically or literally. Like, don't ask Sarah to help move. She's like a bull in a china shop.
Exactly. It's a very vivid way to describe clumsiness or lack of care in sensitive situations.
Very relatable. Okay, a know-it-all. Ugh. Dealing with one of these is draining.
Tell me about it. Someone who acts like they know everything and won't listen to anyone else?
Dismissive of other ideas.
Right. Don't act like a know-it-all. Listen to others. It points to arrogance, being closed-minded.
Not great for teamwork. Okay, a stickler. What's this about?
A stickler insists on following rules very strictly, often inflexible about procedures.
You often hear a stickler for the rules, right?
You do, but often it's shortened, like in the example. Greg is such a stickler, he won't even let us leave 5 minutes early.
Ah, the rule enforcer. Got it. Almost there. The class clown takes you back to school.
It really does. Usually a kid who's always joking, trying to be funny, sometimes disruptive.
Like the example, my son was a class clown, but now he's a big shot.
Yeah, it often has that nostalgic feel when used about adults looking back.
Funny how things turn out. Okay, last one. A tough nut to crack. Sounds challenging.
It is. It can describe a person who's hard to understand or get close to.
Like, Tim is a tough nut to crack. Hard to get him to open up.
Exactly. Or it can describe a difficult problem. This issue is a tough nut to crack. It implies difficulty, needing persistence.
So, applies to people or problems needing extra effort. Okay, that was quite the tour through 25 idioms.
It really was, and you can see how understanding these adds so much depth to comprehending English, right? It's not just words, it's the feelings, the judgments behind them.
Totally. And actually using some of these, appropriately can make your own English sound much more fluent, more natural.
Definitely a shortcut to sounding more like a native speaker sometimes.
So, a final thought maybe for you listening. Think about these idioms. Which ones describe people you know? Maybe even yourself.
Yeah, and consider how using these kinds of descriptions, these metaphors, shapes how we actually see and understand each other. It's pretty fascinating when you think about language that way. Ever wonder if there's like a shortcut, to sounding more polished when you speak English? Like if knowing just a few specific words could instantly make your English sound, I don't know, excellent or more educated.
Yeah, or professional even. It's an interesting idea, right?
Totally. And that's kind of the core of what we're digging into today.
Exactly. We've been looking at this really fascinating YouTube videos from J. Forrest English.
Right.
And the title is pretty bold. If you know these 15 English words, your English is excellent.
It definitely catches your eye. And what grabbed me was how practical it is. It's not just a vocabulary list. It actually, defines the words, shows you how to say them.
And gives examples of native speakers actually using them, which is key.
Absolutely key. So think of this as maybe a peek behind the curtain into that more sophisticated English vocabulary.
Yeah, a good way to put it.
Our mission here isn't just like memorization for you. It's about really getting the feel for these words, the nuances.
Understanding their power.
Exactly, how they make communication clearer, more precise. So yeah, maybe it is a bit of a cheat sheet to feeling more confident, both understanding the stuff and maybe even using it yourself down the line.
And these aren't like super obscure words you'll never hear.
No, not at all.
They do pop up, news reports, more detailed discussions. Knowing them really can unlock another level of understanding.
Oh, not get to it. The 15 words we're going to explore today are grim, baffle, demeanor. Camaraderie, we'll get to that.
Right. Then intimidating, prevalent, blatant, resolute, hinder, obstacle, circumvent.
Exacerbate, nuance, disdain.
And finally, pivotal. Quite a list.
It is. Let's dive in. First up, grim.
Grim. Okay, so the video defines it as an adjective, meaning
extremely bad, worrying, or without hope.
Grim. Simple pronunciation, just grim.
Wow. Yeah.
And the examples were pretty clear. The news about the economic downturn was grim.
Right. Or his expression turned grim when he heard the bad news. Yeah. And the weather forecast this weekend looks grim. You definitely get that negative vibe.
You really do. And the real world clips, they just hammer home that feeling of bleakness.
Yeah.
One speaker talks about wanting a totally different and less grim history or future.
Okay.
And another mentions stadiums being a grim reminder of a human cost.
Yeah.
It's always painting a picture of something deeply unfavorable.
Yeah, it really sets a serious, often quite negative tone immediately.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Let's shift gears a bit. Number 2.
Baffle.
Baffle. Okay, this one's a verb, meaning to result in total confusion.
Baffle. Got it. Pronunciation.
Baffle.
And the examples.
The results baffled the scientists.
Okay.
And she was baffled by his decision to quit.
And the video mentions something here. Passive voice, right, with baffled.
Yes, exactly. Pointed out that she was baffled. Using it passively is actually really common.
Makes sense.
It also had that funny aside about how phrasal verbs often baffle English learners. Huh. Yeah, I think we can all relate to that one.
Definitely. But what's cool about baffle is it's not just like slightly confused. It implies you really can't understand something.
Oh, confused.
Total confusion. The native speaker clips underline this. One person says their work aims to entertain, provoke, and baffle audiences.
Okay, interesting goal.
Right. And another talks about something that continues to baffle people to this day. It highlights that ongoing, complete lack of understanding.
Yeah.
Like your brain just hits a wall.
Yeah, that feeling of your brain just short-circuiting. Okay, got it. Our third word is demeanor.
Demeanor. This one's a noun.
Okay.
Defined as one's way of looking and behaving. Pronunciation. Demeanor.
Demeanor, right. The examples were good too. Having a patient demeanor is an important quality for teachers. Despite his serious demeanor at work, he has a great sense of humor.
Ah, the contrast.
Yeah. And the manager's friendly demeanor made the new employee feel welcome. So it's all about how you come across outwardly.
Exactly. Not just your words, but your whole bearing. How you carry yourself.
Right.
And the real world examples really show how demeanor affects people. We heard about someone with a folksy charm and grandfatherly demeanor.
Nice.
And someone else with a Queen's tough guy demeanor.
Wow. Quite different.
Very different. It shows how that outward presentation shapes perception, influences reactions.
Yeah.
And the video also noted how a leader's demeanor can impact the whole team's morale, which makes total sense.
It really does. You know, it's interesting how words like demeanor and maybe disdain later on focus on those social interactions, those perceptions.
It's a great point. It suggests that part of sounding, educated or professional involves understanding those social dynamics as reflected in language.
Yeah, understanding the nuances of interaction. Okay, your demeanor really sets the tone. Good one. Next up, number 4, camaraderie.
Or camaraderie.
Camaraderie or camaraderie, yes. A noun meaning mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together.
And pronunciation-wise, the video notes both are okay, but camaraderie, stress on the rad, is probably more common, especially in American English.
Camaraderie, got it. Examples.
The camaraderie among the team was evident. They enjoyed the camaraderie of working together, and the trip was filled with laughter and camaraderie.
Yeah.
It really captures that, team spirit, that bond.
That feeling of connection.
What's interesting is that in the real-world clips, you actually hear both pronunciations.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One speaker clearly says camaraderie when talking about work colleagues. Another uses camaraderie stress on the ma.
Huh. So both are out there.
Both are definitely out there and understood. But the core idea is that strong sense of fellowship, that shared experience, mutual support.
It's that bond you get when you're all in the trenches together on something. Makes sense. Word number 5, intimidating.
Intimidating. An adjective.
Meaning
Making you feel frightened or nervous.
Yeah.
Pronunciation. Intimidating.
intimidating. Okay. Examples from the video were speaking with native speakers can be intimidating.
Oh, yeah. Definitely felt that one.
Me too. Her intimidating demeanor made everyone uneasy. Hey, connects back to demeanor.
Nice connection. Yes.
And moving to a new city alone is intimidating. These all paint that picture of feeling a bit overwhelmed, maybe a little scared.
For sure. And the native speaker clips really emphasize that feeling of unease. Someone says working with a legend like Daniel is intimidating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And another note, someone can be quite intimidating for many people. It's that feeling of facing something or someone that feels bigger or more powerful than you.
Yeah, like walking into a big, important meeting, maybe. That slight feeling of pressure, discomfort. Okay. Number 6 is prevalent.
Prevalent, adjective, meaning very common, happening often, or widespread. Pronunciation.
Prevalent.
Prevalent. Okay. Examples. The flu is prevalent during the winter months.
Common knowledge.
Smartphones have become prevalent in today's society.
Understand. Right. And droughts are prevalent in this area. So it's about something being widespread, almost the norm in a place or time.
Exactly. Commonality. The native speaker examples play on this. One person notes something is there, but it's not as prevalent as you think, meaning it's less common than people assume.
Ah, okay.
And another talks about more prevalent theories, meaning the most widely accepted explanations.
So prevalent is all about how common or widespread something is. Got it. Moving on to number 7.
Blatant.
Blatant.
Another adjective.
And this one's interesting. Used when someone does something bad.
Intentionally. Openly. For everyone to see. That's the key. Pronunciation. Blatant.
Blatant. Right. And the examples are pretty direct. His blatant disregard for the rules got him in trouble.
Yep.
It's blatant that you're trying to cheat on the exam. Ouch.
Yeah, not subtle.
Not subtle at all. And the company was fined for blatant violations of safety regulations. The video made a good point here. Blatant is almost always negative.
Absolutely. It carries that strong sense of being obvious, but also shameless about doing wrong.
Shameless, yeah.
The real-world clips included things like blatant disobeying the law and blatant conflict of interest. It's not just wrongdoing. It's doing it so openly you can't miss it. No attempt to hide it.
It's like they're daring you to call them out on it.
Okay, word number 8, resolute.
Resolute. Adjective again, meaning determined in character, action, or ideas. Pronunciation. Resolute.
Resolute.
And the video notes, quite rightly, it's generally seen as a positive quality.
Yeah, you want to be resolute usually.
Yeah.
Examples. She remained resolute in her decision to pursue a new career despite the challenges.
Good for her.
He was resolute in his goals. And her resolute attitude inspired her team to keep going. It really gives that feeling of strong determination, not easily giving up.
Absolutely. Unwavering. The real-world examples hit this hard. We're resolute, we're determined, and someone described it as the resolute figure who proves that character is destiny. Big stuff.
Wow. Yeah. It's about sticking to your guns, isn't it? Even when it's tough.
Exactly. Firm conviction. A quality to admire. Okay, number 9. Hinder.
Hinder. This is a verb. Meaning to limit one's ability or the development of something. Pronunciation.
Hinder. Hinder. So to slow down or block progress.
Yeah.
Examples? His knee injury hindered his training schedule.
Makes sense.
Poor weather conditions can hinder outdoor activities. And the lack of proper equipment will hinder our project. It suggests something getting in the way, making things harder.
Definitely. The real-world examples were interesting, too. One mentioned working without letting the P hinder us, implying actively overcoming whatever P was.
Right, pushing past it.
Another question, if something could promote or hinder growth, showing it as the opposite of helping.
Okay.
And a third note is something can really hinder your ability to be an inspirational leader. So yeah, it's all about obstructing progress.
It's like putting up a roadblock, basically. Which leads us perfectly to word number 10, obstacle.
Obstacle, exactly. A noun defined as something that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. Pronunciation.
Obstacle.
And the video, yeah, it explicitly links it back to hinder. Hinder is the action of slowing down. Obstacle is the thing causing it.
Gotcha. Examples. The biggest obstacle to their success was a lack of funding.
Common one.
How can we overcome these obstacles? And traffic is a major obstacle during my morning commute. Yep, definitely felt that too. These are the things in your path.
The things you have to get past. The real-world clips reinforce that. One speaker says, if there's an obstacle in the way, you find a way to clear it.
Proactive.
And another wonders if someone could be a possible obstacle. So it's all about those challenges you need to navigate.
Those things that make you sigh and think, oh, great, this again. Okay, number 11, circumvent.
Circumvent.
Yeah.
A verb there, meaning to find a way around an obstacle. Pronunciation. Circumvent.
Circumvent.
But the video adds a crucial layer. Often it's done in a clever way. Maybe even a slightly illicit or rule-bending way.
Ah, okay. So not just overcoming the obstacle, but finding a sneaky way around it.
Kind of. While obstacle is the block and hinder is what it does, circumvent is your clever, maybe slightly questionable maneuver to get past it.
Okay, the examples must show this.
They really do. How did you circumvent getting a visa? That implies maybe finding a loophole, right?
Definitely hints at it.
The hacker circumvented the security system. Clearly not above board.
No.
And they try to circumvent the rules. It's all about finding that workaround.
Getting around the system.
Yeah. And the real-world examples follow this. We hear about trying to circumvent reporters' rights and trying to circumvent any of these sorts of laws. Even talking about digital copy protection, it's noted it's easy to circumvent, even if most people don't. It often implies ingenuity, maybe pushing ethical boundaries a bit.
That clever move, sometimes right on the edge. Got it. Word number 12, exacerbate.
Exacerbate, verb, meaning to make a problem or bad situation or something negative even worse. Pronunciation, exacerbate.
Exacerbate, so making bad things worse. Examples. His actions exacerbated the situation.
Yep. Made it worse.
Her comment exacerbated the conflict, and the power outage exacerbated the riots. It clearly shows things escalating, getting more intense in a bad way.
Absolutely. Intensification of the negative. The real-world examples show this escalation clearly. One talks about small things turning into fights that greatly exacerbate our runaway population growth problem.
Wow, big jump.
And another notes how changing one thing can affect and exacerbate the other. It's taking something already bad and piling on, making it significantly worse.
Like throwing gasoline on a fire. Yeah, okay. Our 13th word is nuance.
Nuance, a noun, defined as a subtle difference in meaning, expression, or sound. Pronunciation. Nuance. And the video really stressed how vital understanding nuance is for language learners. This is where the real subtlety and richness lies.
Totally. The examples were spot on for learners. Understanding the nuances of English idioms can greatly improve your fluency.
Big time.
The nuances in pronunciation can change the meaning of words. Very true. And English grammar is filled with nuances. Tell me about it.
Right. It's all those fine details, the small distinctions that make a huge difference in comprehension.
Yeah.
The native speaker examples really capture this delicate quality. Someone mentions a shade of nuance or meaning that feels important and useful.
A shade of nuance, nice phrase.
Isn't it? Another talks about something that eliminates all the nuance of the normal distribution.
Right.
So it's about those subtle layers, that depth and complexity in communication.
It's those little hints, those shades of meaning you can easily miss if you're not really tuned in. Okay, number 14, disdain.
Disdain, a noun, meaning the feeling that someone or something is unworthy of one's attention, support, or respect. Pronunciation.
Disdain.
Disdain. And the video cleverly linked it back to blatant, that example.
Yeah.
Maria's blatant disdain for her ex-husband.
Ah, right. So her lack of respect was obvious.
Exactly. There's a really strong feeling of looking down on something or someone.
The other examples were, he spoke about his competitor with disdain.
You can almost hear the sneer.
Totally. And disdain for the new policy was evident among the employees. It's a powerful feeling, isn't it? Disapproval, lack of respect, maybe even feeling superior.
Very much so.
Yeah.
The real-world clips show it in action. We hear, there is our disdain for the status quo.
Okay, challenging things.
And the idea that the very word modesty is often met with such disdain. It's that feeling that something is just beneath you. Contempt, almost.
Yeah, you can really feel the negativity in that word. Okay, finally, word number 15, pivotal.
Pivotal, an adjective meaning of crucial importance in relation to the development or success of something else. Pronunciation.
Pivotal.
Pivotal, crucially important. The examples. The decision was pivotal to the company's future.
High stakes.
He played a pivotal role in the negotiations, and her speech was a pivotal moment in the campaign.
The turning point.
Yeah, and they had that fun self-referential one. J. Forrest English is pivotal to my English fluency.
Huh. Nice plug for them.
Right, but it clearly means something absolutely key, essential, definitely. The real-world examples really drive home that crucial nature. The treaty marked a pivotal moment in Middle Eastern history.
Huge significance.
And another mentions that the first 90 seconds is pivotal in some context. It signifies something everything else hinges on. A turning point, utterly essential.
Okay. Wow, that was quite the tour through 15 words. So after all that, what's the real takeaway for someone listening who wants to boost their English comprehension, sound more informed?
Well, I think learning these kinds of words, it just gives you a much richer toolkit, right, for understanding native speakers, especially when things get more complex. They often carry those subtle meanings, those nuances we talked about.
Right, the nuanced word itself.
Exactly, that the simpler words just don't capture. So it allows for more precision, both in understanding and eventually in expressing yourself.
And like the video said, even if you knew some of these already,
Yeah,
you've probably picked up new angles, new ways to think about how they're used.
absolutely. It reinforces that learning a language isn't, a destination. It's a journey.
It really is a continuous process of discovery, not about knowing every single word, but always expanding.
Always expanding.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to a good thought for you, the listener, kind of echoing the video's ending.
Yeah.
Which of these words really jumped out at you? Which one resonated, and maybe why?
Oh, interesting question.
Yeah, just think about how you might hear these words pop up in your own life, reading, listening, maybe even thinking about how you could carefully start using them.
It really makes you appreciate that word nuance again, doesn't it? Understanding those subtle differences is just, well, it's pivotal.
Nicely done. It absolutely is pivotal for getting to that deeper level of communication. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into these really quite useful words.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And we'd really encourage you, keep your ears open for these words now when you're reading, listening, watching stuff in English.
Actively notice them.
Exactly. Seeing how they're used out there in the wild. That's what really cements your understanding, right? Builds that confidence.
Totally. It goes beyond just the definition. Context is everything.
For sure.
So this exploration, it's just one step. We're always looking for new ways to understand language more deeply.
And we look forward to the next deep dive with you.
You know that feeling? You're listening to native English speakers, and it just sounds fast, like really fast.
Oh, yeah. Like they're speaking a completely different language sometimes, even though you know the words.
Exactly. And you're trying to grab the main points, but you feel like you're missing all the little things, the sounds they skip, the phrases that weren't in the textbook.
It's a really common hurdle. It's that gap between classroom English and how people actually talk.
Right. So that's what we're diving into today. We want to sort of bridge that gap.
We're looking at those nuances, how pronunciation shifts, those idioms that pop up everywhere, and, some more advanced ways people express themselves.
And we're using a great YouTube lesson as our guide. It's from J. Forrest English, and it's called 1 Hour Lesson: How to Speak Fast and Understand Natives Practice English Listening.
Yeah, it's a good one because it hits these specific challenges head on, understanding that quick, natural speech.
So our mission really is to give you some practical insights, things you can actually use.
So you feel more confident listening and maybe even start sounding a bit more natural yourself when you speak.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into it. First up, how pronunciation changes when people speak fast.
Right. Because when we talk quickly, our mouths, well, they take shortcuts. It's just more efficient.
Makes sense.
And the source gave some really good examples. Let's start with should have.
Yes. Should have. You almost never hear it like that, do you? It's more like
Shoulda.
shoulda. Yeah, that L sound just vanishes. The example was, we should have had a backup plan.
We should have had a backup plan. And that term, backup plan, is useful in itself.
Right. It's just your plan B, basically.
Exactly. An alternative if the first plan fails. Like you're giving a presentation, your computer is plan A.
But you've got it on a USB stick just in case. That's the backup.
Precisely. And this change, should have to shoulda, it's a perfect example of how unstressed sounds get reduced or just dropped entirely in fast speech. Makes it flow.
It really does. It's all about ease, isn't it? Another thing is linking sounds between words, like back up.
Yeah, good one. Instead of a clear stop back up, that final K sound just sort of attaches itself to up.
So it becomes back up, one smooth sound.
Exactly. Smoother transitions. That's the key.
Okay, what about past tense, that aid ending, like in the word pissed?
Right. We learn it as a D or T, but often, like with pissed, it's a very soft T. Almost disappears sometimes.
Especially in a sentence, right? The example was, her comment really pissed me off.
Pissed me off. You might barely hear that final T sound. You really have to rely on the context to know it's past tense.
Definitely. Context is everything. And pissed off itself.
That's an interesting one.
It is. It means really angry, but it's very informal.
Like you wouldn't say it to your boss necessarily?
Probably not. You might tell a friend, "Ugh, my boss really pissed me off," but saying it to someone you're angry with or in a formal setting, yeah, probably avoid it. It can sound rude. Good distinction. Context for grammar, context for politeness too. Okay, another shift. A little.
Yeah. That T in the middle between vowels, it often softens to sound like a D.
So a little.
A little, or sometimes it vanishes completely, like a little.
A little. Like in the example, he looked a little frazzled.
He looked a little frazzled.
Almost like
exactly. It's that ease of articulation again. And frazzled. Great word.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does. Tired, worried, anxious. Maybe their hair's messy, they look stressed. That's frazzled.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay, one more pronunciation thing the lesson highlighted linking with a Z sound.
Right, this is subtle but happens all the time. A word ends in S, like his, and the next word starts with a vowel.
Like his email.
That S sound often gets voiced, it vibrates, so it sounds more like a Z.
So his email sounds like Heismail.
Pretty much, or maybe closer to Z-mail if it's really fast. Heismail came late. It just connects the words smoothly.
Wow. Okay, these little shifts make a huge difference in understanding. Let's switch gears a bit. Advanced expressions, idioms, phrasal verbs, these can be real roadblocks.
For sure, because the meaning isn't obvious just from the words. Our source had a great list. First one, take what she says with a grain of salt.
I like this idiom. It means basically don't just automatically believe everything someone tells you, right?
Exactly, because maybe they're unreliable or they exaggerate. The example was about Gina, who promises to help but often flakes out.
So you listen, but you take it with a grain of salt. You're cautious.
And the lesson noted, it's often used as a command, an imperative. Take it with a grain of salt. It's advice.
Got it. Next, it's high time. This one feels like something needs to happen now.
Yeah, it carries that sense of urgency. It means something should happen, and maybe it's already overdue. The example was, it's high time we let her go.
And let her go here doesn't mean release her from captivity.
Oh no, it's a politer, more indirect way of saying fire someone and their employment.
So, it's high time we let her go means she should have been fired already, probably.
That's the implication, yeah.
Oh, okay, how about nitpick?
Ah, nitpick. To focus on tiny, unimportant flaws or details and complain about them.
Like the example. The restaurant meal is great, the service is great, but Lindsay is complaining about the plate color.
Exactly. That's nitpicking, finding fault with insignificant things. And the source mentioned using like crazy with it.
My mom nitpicks like crazy, meaning a lot.
Yeah, like crazy is just an informal way to say a lot or very much. And the person who does this is a nitpicker.
Okay, so how is that different from be picky? They sound similar.
Similar but different. Picky just means you have strong preferences. You like certain things and not others. It's not necessarily finding fault.
So kids can be picky eaters, they just don't like broccoli. They're not saying the broccoli is flawed.
Exactly. Or you might be picky about choosing a job or a house. You have specific requirements. That's different from nitpicking the tiny details of something you've already chosen.
Right. And the lesson mentioned how to be often sounds like Kobe.
Yeah, the unstressed too often gets reduced. He seems to be picky.
Okay. Now for something we all want to do sometimes. Call it a day.
Yes. Means stop working. You've done enough, or you're just too tired to continue.
Like the example, you've been working like crazy all week.
And finally you say, okay, let's call it a day. Time to stop.
Next, be nosy.
Nosy. Yeah, that means being too interested in other people's private lives, things that aren't your business.
Like checking your partner's phone without permission.
That's a classic example of being nosy, and that led into talking about pet peeves.
Ah, pet peeves. Those little things that just really annoy you personally.
Right. The source mentioned the top 3 from a Google search. Loud chewing.
Ugh, yes.
Bad manners. And clutter. Pretty common ones.
Definitely relatable. Okay, what about when things get slightly chaotic? A little out of hand?
Yeah, out of hand means becoming difficult to control, unmanageable.
Like a party getting too loud, or maybe someone's spending habits.
Exactly. Things are escalating past what's normal or acceptable. That's getting out of hand.
Got it. How about being surprised? Catch someone off guard.
Means to surprise someone, usually with unexpected news or actions. They weren't prepared for it.
Like getting unexpected email, or the contents of the email being a shock.
Right. And you often hear it in the passive, I was caught off guard, meaning I was the one surprised.
Okay. Now, a more positive one. Stick up for someone.
This means to defend or support someone, especially if they're being criticized or attacked.
Like the example of people in the YouTube comments sticking up for the host.
Exactly. Defending them. It's a nice thing to do.
Then there's sticking to something. Different meaning.
Right. Sticking to something means continuing with it, especially if it's difficult, like sticking to a diet.
And the source clarified diet. It can mean a specific eating plan, like for weight loss.
Or just the food someone normally eats.
Yeah.
And go on a diet means starting that specific plan.
So sticking to the diet is about discipline. And related to that is stick it out.
Yeah, stick it out means continuing something until the end, persevering even when it's tough.
Like finishing that 90-day diet plan, even when you're tempted to quit, you decide to stick it out.
Exactly, see it through.
Okay, how about all set? Simple one.
Very common, just means ready or prepared.
Are you all set for the meeting? or you all set to go.
Right. And often, like you just did, people drop the R. Just, you all set. Very natural.
Now, if things are not set, maybe disorganized, all over the map.
Yeah, if something is all over the map, it lacks focus, it's disorganized, maybe confusing.
Like a report that jumps between topics or advice from a consultant that seems scattered.
Exactly. No clear direction.
What about watching carefully? Keep your eyes peeled.
Love that image. It means watch very carefully. Be alert. Be on the lookout for something specific.
Like looking for street signs when you're driving or proofreading for errors. Keep your eyes peeled.
And it's usually used as a command, telling someone to watch out.
Okay. Estimating costs.
Ballpark. Right. As a verb, to ballpark means to give a rough estimate. Or you can ask for a ballpark figure, which is the estimate itself.
Like the consultant giving a $3 to $5 million ballpark figure. It's not exact, but it gives you an idea.
Exactly. It's in the right area, the right ballpark.
And thinking about the future, but vaguely, down the line?
Down the line or down the road means sometime in the future, but unspecified when.
Like, we'll deal with that down the line. We're thinking about the consequences of not improving your English down the line.
Right. A future point, but not fixed.
Now, the lesson mentioned a tricky phrase to say. Have you edited it yet?
Oh, yeah. That double it sound close together. Edited it. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Edited it yet. It can blur together.
It really can. It's present perfect with yet asking about completion. But the source rightly suggested, maybe rephrasing for clarity, like, have you edited the report yet? Much easier.
Definitely. Okay, what about having the right qualities for something? Have what it takes.
This means having the necessary skills, character, determination. Whatever is needed to succeed.
Like, you could say someone has what it takes to be a great leader, or that listeners have what it takes to become fluent in English.
Absolutely. It implies ability and potential. The lesson also mentioned move up in a career context.
Right, getting a promotion. You need to have what it takes to move up.
Makes sense. Now, when you've finished all your pending work, all caught up.
All caught up means you're up to date, no backlog.
Right. The all means 100%, completely. Like you've answered all your emails, you're all caught up.
Okay. Need a quick moment of someone's time. Have a sec.
Short for have a second. Very common, informal way to ask for a brief moment before you ask a question or start talking.
Hey, have a sec. I need to ask you something.
Exactly. Much quicker than, do you have a moment?
And updating someone. Bring someone up to speed.
Means giving someone the latest information or news about something they missed.
Like if you come back from vacation, you ask your colleague, can you bring me up to speed on the conference?
Perfect example. Getting them current.
And one last common one.
Go out. Simple, but essential. Means doing a social activity outside your home. Dinner, drinks, movie, whatever.
Are you going out tonight? Very common question.
Definitely. Okay, so, wow, we covered a lot there.
We really did. From those sneaky pronunciation shifts.
Like shoulda and little.
To a whole bunch of really useful idioms and phrasal verbs. Grain of salt, nitpick, stick it out.
Things native speakers use constantly without even thinking about it.
Exactly. And understanding these is just crucial for really getting what people mean, right?
Absolutely. It's about listening actively for those sound changes, knowing the meanings of these phrases, and paying attention to the context. That's how you improve comprehension and sound more natural too.
So here's something to think about, maybe a little challenge for you listening. Next time you watch a movie or listen to a conversation in English.
Really listen. Try to catch these things. Notice the shouldas. Hear the linked sounds.
Yeah. Spot the idioms. How often do you hear someone say, call it a day, or down the line, or bring someone up to speed?
Just becoming aware of them, actively identifying them when you hear them, that's a huge step.
It really trains your ear. And it makes that fast, natural English feel, well, less intimidating, more understandable.
Definitely. You start to see the patterns. It makes it much less like a secret code.
Absolutely. You really do have what it takes to get the hang of this. Just keep listening, keep noticing.
Your understanding and your confidence, they'll definitely grow. You know that feel when you realize something you thought was like way out there is actually, well, in here. Microplastics showing up in Antarctic sea ice, the deepest ocean trenches, even our drinking water. It's kind of overwhelming.
It really is. It's a lot to take in. So today, we're trying to cut through some of that noise. Give you a clearer picture.
Okay.
We're diving deep into microplastics, how they sort of spread into our lives. We're basing this on an English learning video, actually, which covered quite a bit vocab, grammar.
Right.
But we're zeroing in on the core stuff. Just how bad is this contamination? Are there any, actual solutions? And what does it mean for you listening?
Okay, let's start with that headline idea. How microplastics are infiltrating everything you consume. That word infiltrating, it sounds a bit sneaky, doesn't it?
It does. It means like entering or spreading into something, but often in a way you don't want or expect.
Right. Unwanted guests. And consume. We mostly think eating and drinking, I guess.
Yeah, primarily. But it also kind of covers the broader sense of just using resources, the things around us.
Gotcha. So how bad is it? Where are these things?
Well, the source material really hammers this home. They've infiltrated pretty much every part of the planet. It's not just one or two spots.
Every part. Wow.
Yeah. Global.
And the examples they give are, well, they're pretty shocking, like buried deep in Antarctic ice. Can you even picture that?
It's hard to imagine, isn't it? And then finding them inside animals living in the absolute deepest parts of the ocean.
The pressure down there must be immense. And still, plastics.
Exactly. And it's not just these, extreme far-off places. They talked about finding them on beaches.
Beaches, like regular beaches.
Even on remote, uninhabited islands, places you'd think would be totally untouched. And they consistently show up, that's the phrase they used, meaning appear, in seawater samples from all over.
Okay, so they're definitely appearing everywhere in the water. But it's not just water, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a key point.
Yeah.
They're widespread in soils, too, on land.
Right. And if they're in the soil...
then they can get into our food chain.
Yeah.
Potentially ending up, in the food we eat.
Ugh. Okay, so this tiny stuff is having a massive impact.
Which brings us to this word the source used, ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous, meaning...
Sound everywhere, existing everywhere. They used it to describe microplastics in water, but then gave examples like, cell phones.
Ah, okay, like how cell phones are just everywhere now.
Exactly. Or how ChatGPT is becoming ubiquitous in workplaces. It helps you grasp just how pervasive this microplastic thing is. It's becoming like that everywhere.
So the takeaway is they are absolutely everywhere, which leads to the bit that's frankly a little disturbing, that we might be unwittingly eating them. Almost every bite. Unwittingly, meaning we don't know we're doing it.
Exactly. Without knowing or planning it. It's not like anyone wants to eat plastic. It's just happening.
Okay. Understandably, people aren't happy about this. The source mentions a backlash.
Yeah, strong negative reaction, lots of criticism, especially against single-use plastics. You see it all the time now.
Definitely. Which has led companies to look for alternatives, right? Things labeled biodegradable or compostable.
Right. Trying to respond to that backlash. And on the surface, that sounds great. A positive step.
You'd think so. But, and here's the twist, I guess. The source suggests these alternatives might actually be compounding the problem, making it worse.
That's the really concerning finding, yeah. Research show that some of these supposedly biodegradable bags, they can take years.
Years?
Years to disintegrate, which means break down until nothing's left. But even then, they mostly just break down into smaller pieces. Tiny plastic fragments, not back into their basic chemical parts.
So they're just making more microplastics, but from biodegradable stuff.
Potentially, yes. That's the worry. It's kind of ironic. They even use that phrasal verb, break down into, like taking a big problem and breaking it down into smaller bits.
Right, like manageable steps. Except here, the smaller bits are still the problem.
Exactly. The smaller bits are the microplastics.
Okay, so biodegradable might not be the magic bullet.
Yeah.
What about other ideas, like swapping plastic for glass?
That's mentioned too. Swapping out plastic packaging for glass containers. The idea is to reduce your exposure, how much contact you have with microplastics through consumption.
Makes sense. Less plastic packaging, less plastic exposure.
Seems logical, but, and this is important, the source is careful. It says this could potentially help. It's not a definite fix.
Ah, okay. Potential. Why only potential?
Because swapping everything to glass would have its own environmental repercussions.
Repercussions, like negative consequences.
Yeah, negative impacts. Because making and transporting glass actually has a higher environmental footprint, a bigger lasting effect on the environment than plastic does.
Oh, wow. So you fix one problem, potentially create another. That's tricky.
It's a real dilemma. There often aren't easy answers with this stuff.
So are we just stuck then? Is there any good news?
Well, fortunately, the source does offer some hope. It says researchers are working on a number of approaches. So quite a few different methods to try and actually get rid of the plastic pollution that's already out there.
Get rid of it permanently. Okay, now that sounds promising. What kind of approaches?
Some really interesting ones, actually. They're looking at Fungi, mushrooms and molds and bacteria.
Fungi. How would that help?
Apparently, some types can actually feed on plastic. They can break it down.
Seriously? Nature fighting back?
Sort of, using natural processes. Then there's another one involving beetle larvae.
Beetle larvae, like grubs.
Yeah, the stage between egg and beetle. Apparently there's a species that can devour, totally eat up polystyrene. The stuff in styrofoam?
Whoa. They eat styrofoam.
Seems so. It's listed as another potential solution. Maybe they have some special enzyme or something in their gut. It's quite fascinating.
That is fascinating. Okay, fungi, beetle larvae. Anything else?
They also mentioned more technological approaches. Researchers are looking at, meaning considering or exploring, using things like advanced water filtration techniques.
To filter out the microplastics.
Yeah, or chemical treatments that could maybe remove them from water supplies. So there's work happening on multiple fronts. Biology, technology.
Okay, let's maybe pull this together. What have we learned here?
Well, the big picture is microplastics really have infiltrated pretty much everywhere on Earth. From the Arctic to the deep sea to, us.
Right, and we're likely consuming them without even realizing it, unwittingly.
Exactly. And while the push away from single-use plastic is good, those biodegradable alternatives, they might not be the simple fix we thought. They could even be adding to the microplastic load.
Yeah, that was a surprise. And swapping to glass isn't straightforward either because of its own environmental footprint.
Right. But the hopeful part is the ongoing research. Scientists are developing ways to tackle the existing pollution using fungi, bacteria, those plastic-eating larvae, and filtration methods.
So not all doom and gloom then. There are people actively working on this.
Definitely. There's innovation happening.
And hopefully for you listening, this deep dive has, clarified things a bit, cut through some of the confusion around this complex issue. You've got a better handle now on how widespread it is and what's being explored to, fix it.
Which maybe leaves us with a thought to chew on for you to consider. Given everything we've talked about, the ubiquity, the issues with current alternatives, the promise, but also the early stages, some solutions, what sort of larger changes, beyond just individual swaps or new tech? What systemic shifts in how we make things, use things, dispose of things, do you think might be needed to really tackle this microplastic problem for the long haul?
That's a big question. Definitely something to mull over after this. Something maybe to look into yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Ever feel like you're, navigating a linguistic obstacle course? You hear a word, sounds so much like another, but the meaning is, miles apart.
Oh, yeah. And a classic English learner frustration, isn't it?
Totally. And get this, our source material for today, this YouTube video transcript, it actually grapples with a whopping 67 of these confusing English words.
67. Wow.
Yeah. Kind of makes you realize you're definitely not alone in this struggle.
It really shines a light on a key aspect of mastering English, doesn't it? It's not just about building a big vocabulary.
Right.
It's about developing that keen ear and eye for these subtle distinctions that can completely change the whole message.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we're diving deep today on the deep dive. We've got excerpts from that very video transcript. It's a real treasure trove of linguistic puzzles. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, and well, you're already listening, so you have, is to equip you with a much sharper understanding of some of the most common and frankly confusing English words. We want to inject a bit more confidence into your English.
Right, so you can speak and understand without that nagging feeling of am I using this right?
Exactly.
Think of this as your insider's guide to untangling some of the naughtiest parts of English vocabulary. We'll be pulling out the crucial differences and looking at real examples from the source, aiming to make these distinctions, crystal clear.
So how do we even begin to tackle this mountain of vocabulary?
Good question.
We're going to take it step by step. First, we'll zero in on confusing nouns. Then we'll get our heads around some tricky verbs.
Okay.
And finally, we'll sort out those similar sounding adjectives. We'll even pepper in some of those quiz-like questions from the transcript just to keep things engaging and, test our understanding.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with nouns. And what better place to begin than job versus work?
Ah, yes. This is such a foundational distinction. As the source points out, a job that refers to a specific paid position you hold. It's your official role.
Okay.
You might say, she applied for a new job at the law firm. very concrete. The takeaway here, think specific role for job.
Specific role, got it.
And general effort for work helps avoid sounding unnatural.
Right. And work then is more about the general effort, the tasks you do, the labor itself.
Less about the formal title.
So you could ask, do you like your job?
Yeah.
The specific role, but also, do you like your work? Focusing more on the day-to-day stuff.
Precisely. And interestingly, the transcript mentions native speakers often use them interchangeably in that kind of question.
Huh. Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I think it's because in many contexts, the general feeling about the tasks involved kind of overlaps with the satisfaction you get from the specific role,
Makes sense.
But for learners, keeping that core distinction in mind, specific position versus general effort, that's really key for accurate usage. What's also fascinating is the grammar. Work often acts as a collective noun. You wouldn't typically say a work in the same way you'd say a job. It's usually, I have so much work to do, work stays singular there.
Exactly. The transcript throws in a perfect quiz example. He's looking for new, but finding a good takes time.
Right.
And the answer, of course, he's looking for new work. The general effort of seeking employment, but finding a good job, a specific position, takes time.
Perfect illustration. Really lays it out clearly.
Okay, next up, a pair that often causes a stumble. Story versus history.
Yeah, the fundamental difference here is that blend of fact and fiction. A story is a narrative. It can be rooted in reality or purely imaginative, and it's told for various purposes: entertainment, education, sharing experiences. Think about the phrase, tell a story.
Right. Character's plot.
Exactly. It evokes all that.
Whereas history, as our source underscores, is a factual account of past events. Like, the book is based on real history, not fiction. That's a crucial dividing line.
It is.
So if I were to say, my grandfather always told fascinating stories about the war, that would be different from saying, my grandfather lived through a significant period of history.
Precisely. The stories, while maybe based on historical events, are his personal narratives, his way of recounting his experiences.
Okay.
The history is the broader factual record of that period. Notice also the prepositions we often use. The story about versus the history of.
Oh, boy.
The transcript also highlights verbs commonly associated with history, like learn, read, discover, discuss, debate, all actions tied to, factual inquiry.
And another quiz to really nail this down. He told a funny history, but it had nothing to do with actual.
An easy one.
Yeah. He told a funny story, but it had nothing to do with actual history. You wouldn't really tell history in the same way, would you?
Not in that narrative sense, no.
Okay. Let's move on to two words often used around a major life event. Wedding versus marriage. Why do these tend to get mixed up?
Well, I think the confusion arises because one leads directly to the other, right? The wedding is the specific event, the ceremony where two people become married.
The big day.
Exactly. A single occasion. Yeah. Date, time, location. Were you invited to their wedding? That's a natural question for the ceremony.
But marriage is the ongoing thing, the legal and social union after they're married.
Yeah. It's not a singular event. You can ask, when is your wedding?
Yeah.
It's a point in time. But it sounds, odd to ask, when is your marriage? Instead, you'd ask, how long have you been married?
Yeah.
Focusing on the duration of the relationship.
So the wedding is the start, marriage is the journey. Got it.
Exactly. The transcript provides a really stark example. Their wedding didn't last long, which would imply the event itself was maybe rushed or even called off.
Okay.
In contrast, their marriage didn't last long means their relationship ended after they were married. Two very different implications.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. And the quiz solidifies it. They're beautiful, but there has been full of challenges. Their wedding was beautiful, but their marriage has been full of challenges.
Yeah.
You attend a wedding, you're in a marriage.
Spot on.
All right, let's tackle a pair that's all about spelling and, crucially, pronunciation.
Yeah.
Desert with one S and dessert with two S's. What's the key here?
It really comes down to stress and those extra S. Desert ones refers to that dry, arid land, sparse vegetation.
Like the Sahara.
Exactly. And the stress, it falls on the first syllable. D-is. Think vast, sandy landscapes. The tip here, one's dry place, stress on D-is.
Okay, dessert.
And dessert, two S's, is that delightful sweet course you enjoy at the end of a meal.
Cake.
Ah.
Yes.
Yes. Here, the stress is on the second syllable. Dessert. Think sugary treats. Two S's, sweet thing, stress on dessert.
Dessert.
Okay. The transcript offers a fantastic sentence to drill the pronunciation. After crossing the desert, we enjoyed a delicious dessert.
I hear it. After crossing the desert, we enjoyed a delicious dessert.
Hear how the stress shifts. Makes all the difference. And just to be super clear for you listening, the phonetic spellings are Eva's sort for the dry land,
Dessert.
and Deva's suit for the sweet treat.
Desert. Got it. Absolutely. Now, let's chew on price versus cost. They often seem interchangeable, but there's a significant distinction. What's the core difference?
Okay, so the price is basically the amount of money you need to pay to buy something. It's what you see on the price tag.
Straightforward. What's the price of that new phone?
Exactly. Cost, however, it encompasses the total expenditure, all the direct and indirect expenses associated with getting or using something.
Like hiddy fees.
Sort of. The transcript's example is spot on.
Yeah.
The cost of studying abroad is high when you factor in tuition, housing, food, and transportation.
Right. The price might just be the tuition fee.
But the overall cost includes everything else you have to pay.
Okay.
And cost can also function as a verb. How much does this cost?
Right. You wouldn't say, how much does this price?
No, price mainly operates as a noun in that way. The concept of total cost, as the transcript mentions, really highlights those additional, often less obvious expenses beyond the initial price tag. So the quick tip: price is the tag, cost is the total outlay.
And the quiz neatly wraps this up. The adunk of the car was low, but the long term of insurance and maintenance is high.
Yeah.
The initial price of the car might have been attractive, but the total cost of ownership over time turns out to be considerable. Okay, let's consider two words relating to likelihood. Chance versus opportunity.
Okay, so chance refers to the possibility or probability of something happening. It's a more neutral term.
Like, there's a 60% chance of rain today.
Exactly. It doesn't inherently carry a positive or negative judgment.
But opportunity is different.
Yes. Opportunity is a favorable set of circumstances. It presents itself for achieving a goal or some positive outcome. It has a definite positive connotation.
Like, this scholarship is a fantastic opportunity.
Precisely. To further your education. Notice how we often modify these words, too. We talk about a slim chance or a good chance, focusing on probability. With opportunity, we use positive adjectives. Great, amazing, golden, emphasizing how advantageous it is.
So quick tip. Chance is neutral possibility. Opportunity is positive possibility.
You got it.
And the quiz reinforces this. This internship is a real, and you have very little of winning the lottery. A real opportunity, something beneficial to pursue, and very little chance. A low probability of winning the lottery. Makes perfect sense. Let's move on to the financial realm with loan versus debt.
Okay. A loan is a specific amount of money that's borrowed and needs to be repaid, usually with interest.
Right. You take out a loan for a house or a car.
Exactly. It's the act of borrowing a defined sum. Debt, on the other hand, is the total amount of money that is owed. It's the accumulation of all your outstanding loans and other financial obligations.
So you have debt because you took out loans.
Pretty much. A loan is a transaction. Debt is the state of owing.
Grammatically, debt is often treated as a collective noun. So you typically say, I have a lot of debt, not usually I have many debts in these general contexts.
Good point.
Also worth remembering, as the transcript does, the silent B in debt, it's pronounced debt.
Debt, right. No B sound.
Nope.
And the quiz clarifies the relationship. That it helped him buy the motorcycle, but now he has to manage his debt.
So,
The loan made the purchase possible, but now he's dealing with the debt, the total sum he owes. Right, now we have another spelling and sound pairing. Suit versus sweet. What's the key here?
it's all about that middle vowel sound and, of course, the meaning. Suit refers to a set of matching garments, jacket, trousers, often formal.
Like for an interview.
Exactly. The pronunciation is suit, rhymes with boot. It can also mean a legal action, but that's a different context.
Okay, to suit.
Suite, however, refers to a set of connected rooms, often in a hotel.
Ah, the fancy hotel room.
Usually, yeah. The pronunciation is sweet, rhyming with sweet, like sugar. It can also mean a collection of software programs.
Swist.
Yeah.
So we like you and suit, E like C and sweet.
That's a good way to remember it. The transcript provides a clear illustration. He wore a navy blue suit, so-sit to the interview. Our hotel suite suit had a beautiful ocean view.
Different spellings, different sounds, totally different things.
Completely.
And the quiz tests this directly. Why are you wearing your in this? The answer. Why are you wearing your suit so sit in our sweet suits? A slightly comical image.
Indeed.
Okay, next up, receipt versus recipe. Another pair where spelling and pronunciation are the trick.
Okay, receipt. That's the little piece of paper you get after buying something. Proof of payment.
Right, keep it for returns.
Exactly. And that P, silent. The pronunciation is recentist.
Thanks.
But with a silent pen.
Recis, got it.
Recipe, on the other hand, is a set of instructions for preparing food.
Like for baking a cake.
Yep. The pronunciation is recipe. Stress on the first syllable. Think
Recipe.
The transcript highlights how using words like lost or need immediately tells you which word is meant. I lost the receipt, can't verify the purchase.
Right.
I lost the recipe. Dinner might be interesting.
Huh. And the quiz puts it together. I kept the recipes for the groceries, and I followed to bake the cake.
So,
You keep the receipt, Transit is to track spending, and you follow the recipe, Transit to bake. Simple when you focus on the meaning. Now, let's look at morale versus moral. These sound so similar.
they really do. The key lies in that middle vowel sound and the context. Morale refers to the overall confidence, enthusiasm, spirit of a group.
Like team morale.
Exactly. Team morale, employee morale. The pronunciation has a longer A sound. Sanjarel. Think high team morale leads to success.
Moral, however, relates to principles of right and wrong, or the lesson you learn from a story or experience.
It's like the moral of the story.
Precisely. The pronunciation has a shorter O sound. Evitrate.
So, the tip, ale in morale, group spirit, or in moral, right or wrong. Context is crucial here. Employee morale improved clearly refers to the team spirit. The moral of the story gives you that ethical takeaway.
And the quiz reinforces this. The captain's speech boosted the teams and taught an important about perseverance.
So the speech improved.
The team's morale measured all and conveyed a moral Mansell lesson. Right, we're zipping through these. Let's look at resident versus resident.
Okay. Resident, that's a person who lives in a particular place. You're a resident of your city.
Simple enough.
Residence is the place where someone lives. His official residence is on Park Avenue.
So, person versus place.
Exactly. But the transcript points out a common point of confusion, especially in spoken English. The plural residence, the people, sounds very similar to the singular residence, the place.
Oh, I can see that. Residence, very close.
Yeah, you really have to listen to the context.
The quiz highlights this potential confusion. The new shoe has space for 50. The new residence, the building has room for 50 residents.
Correct.
The people living there. Okay, last noun pair in this section. Weather versus climate. Often discussed together, but quite different.
They are. Weather describes the short-term atmospheric conditions right now, today. Temperature, rain, wind.
Like what's the weather like outside?
Exactly. It changes day to day, even hour to hour. Climate, on the other hand, refers to the long-term average weather patterns in a region, usually over decades.
So asking about the climate gives a general idea, not today's forecast.
Right. What to expect year-round, generally. So weather is the now, climate is the average over time.
Okay.
The transcript provides a clear example. We had to cancel the picnic because of the bad weather, short-term issue. But changes in climate are leading to more extreme heat waves. That's a long-term trend.
Got it. And the final noun quiz. The in the mountains can change very quickly, but the soul is generally cold and snowy throughout the year. The weather in the mountains is unpredictable, but the overall climate is cold and snowy. All right, we've navigated a good chunk of tricky nouns, ready to tackle some verbs that often trip people up.
Absolutely. Let's start with hear versus listen. Such a common area for mistakes. What's the fundamental difference?
Okay, hear is passive. Your ears just do it automatically without you really trying.
Exactly. Passive reception of sound. I could hear the traffic outside. It's about the ability to perceive sound.
Listen, though, is active, intentional. You have to focus.
Right. It requires conscious effort. If someone asks, "Are you listening to me?" they want to know if you're actively processing what they're saying. So hearing is passive, listening is active.
The transcript gives some helpful phrases. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Asking about ability. Did you hear that noise? Often just checking if you registered a sound. But you listen to music, listen to a lecture. It needs concentration.
Good point about listen to. And here's a challenge for you listening. Try to make a sentence using both hear and listen correctly. The transcript offers a perfect example. I can hear the birds singing outside, but I'm not really listening to them. I'm focused on my work.
Ah, nice. You perceive the sound, but you're not actively engaging with it. Excellent exercise. Okay, next up. Say versus tell. This distinction can be surprisingly subtle. What's the key?
Often, the key is what follows the verb. Tell typically needs a person as the indirect object. You tell me a story, tell your friend the news.
Right. Could you tell me what time it is?
Exactly. Say, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily need that direct person object. You can just say hello, say it's raining.
Okay.
If you do include a person after say, you usually need to, like, what did you say to him?
So tell directs the info to someone. Say is more about the message itself.
That's a good way to put it. The transcript also notes common collocations. We tell the truth, tell lies, tell a story.
Right. You don't really say the truth.
Not usually in the same way, no. Also, tell often emphasizes the content, while say can just report the words spoken.
Here's another sentence challenge for you. Try to construct one using both say and tell correctly.
Let's see. The transcript gives us, she said that she always tells the truth.
Ah, perfect. Shows how they function differently. Now, let's move on to two verbs for verbal communication. Speak versus talk.
Okay. Speak tends to be a bit more formal than talk. It's often used in more formal settings like presentations.
Or languages. She speaks fluent Spanish.
Exactly. You might give a speech or speak to the audience. Talk is generally for more casual conversations, discussions, exchanges.
Like, let's talk about our vacation plans.
Right. Both speak about and talk about are grammatically correct, but speak about often carries that slightly more formal, maybe one-way connotation.
So speak is a bit more official. Talk is more relaxed.
That's the general idea. The professor spoke about the research, sounds like a lecture. The students talked about the project, sounds more like a discussion. And asking, can we talk, is a common way to start a less formal chat.
Time for another sentence challenge. Combine speak and talk.
The transcripts example. We talked about how she speaks 3 different languages.
Casual conversation about a more formal skill. Nice. Okay, let's try to clearly define the differences between see, look, and watch. All about sight, but different nuances.
Right. See, much like hear is passive perception. It's just what happens when light hits your eyes, no conscious effort.
Like, I can see the mountains, or did you see that?
Exactly. Look, though, involves a deliberate effort. You direct your gaze towards something specific. It's a conscious action.
Look at the beautiful sunset. You choose to do it.
Right. And watch implies continuous, focused attention on something, especially if it's moving or changing.
So that's why we watch a movie, watch a game, or watch kids playing.
Precisely. There's that element of sustained observation. So, quick recap. See is passive, look is intentional direction, watch is sustained attention.
The transcript makes a good point, though. We often say, see a movie, even though it moves.
Yeah, that's true. I think in that context, see focuses more on the act of attending the event, going to the cinema.
Ah, okay. But you definitely wouldn't say, let's see TV tonight.
No, definitely let's watch TV.
Okay. And here's a combined sentence challenge for this trio. Use see, look, and watch in one coherent sentence.
Ooh, tricky. The transcript offers a clever one. He looked out the window and saw a bird land on the branch, so he watched it for a few minutes.
Looked, action. Saw, passive perception. Watched, sustained attention. That's a great illustration.
Okay.
Okay, let's shift focus to movement verbs. Bring versus take. Direction is key here, right?
Absolutely key. Bring indicates movement towards the speaker or the person being referred to.
So if I'm here and you're there, I'd say, can you bring me the book?
Exactly. The book needs to come to your location. Take, conversely, indicates movement away from the speaker or the person referred to.
Like, can you take the trash out? It goes away from here.
Perfect. So bring is towards, take is away. Directional words like here and to often give clues. You bring something here. You take something to a destination away from here.
Got it. Time for a sentence challenge using both.
Okay, the transcripts example. Could you bring your notes to the meeting and then take the minutes back to the office?
Movement towards the meeting, then away from the meeting. Makes sense. Now, let's consider fit versus suit, related to appearance and suitability.
Right. Fit is primarily about size and physical dimensions. Does it match your body size?
This shirt doesn't fit. It's too small. Or these shoes fit perfectly. Physical compatibility.
Exactly. Suit, on the other hand, is about whether something is flattering, appropriate, or compatible with your style, personality, even a situation.
Like that new hairstyle really suits you. Or that color suits you.
Right. It's about aesthetic harmony or appropriateness. You might also say, living in the countryside really suits her personality. if it aligns well with her lifestyle.
So fit is size, suit is style, or appropriateness.
That's the core difference.
Sentence challenge time. Use both fit and suit.
Transcript offers, this dress fits well, but I'm not sure if the bright color suits me.
Size is right, style might be wrong. Got it. Now let's tackle learn versus teach. Two sides of the same educational coin.
Okay, learn is the process of acquiring knowledge or a skill. I'm trying to learn guitar, you're receiving, internalizing.
And teach is the opposite, giving knowledge or skill.
Exactly. My sister's going to teach me how to bake. It's imparting instruction. So learn is receiving, teach is giving.
The transcript highlights a common error, saying, I'm learning this lesson when you mean I'm studying this lesson.
Right. Learning generally implies you've actually acquired a new skill or piece of knowledge from the lesson. Studying is the process.
Okay, good distinction. Sentence challenge. Use both learn and teach.
Transcript example.
Yeah.
My grandfather is going to teach me how to garden so that I can learn how to grow my own vegetables.
One shares expertise, the other gains skill. Perfect. Now let's look at lend versus borrow. Giving and receiving temporarily.
Okay, lend means to give something to someone temporarily, expecting it back. Could you lend me your pen?
Structure is lend someone something or lend something to someone.
Right. Borrow means to receive something from someone temporarily, intending to return it. Can I borrow your notes?
And the structure is borrow something from someone.
Correct. The transcript rightly points out that can you borrow me money is incorrect.
Yeah, that sounds wrong. It should be can you lend me money or can I borrow money from you?
Exactly.
Sentence challenge.
Yeah.
Use both lend and borrow.
Transcript gives us, my roommate is happy to lend me his bike, but I always make sure to borrow it carefully.
One offers, the other receives temporarily.
Got it. Now, remember versus remind, related to memory.
Okay. Remember is when you recall something spontaneously from your own memory.
Like, oh, I just remembered it's my friend's birthday.
Exactly. Remind is when someone or something causes you to remember. It prompts your memory.
Could you remind me to buy milk? Someone else jogging my memory.
Right. So remember is internal recall. Remind is external prompting. The noun form reminder is useful too. I set an alarm as a reminder, which means the alarm reminds me.
Perfect. Sentence challenge. Use both remember and remind.
Okay.
Transcripts example. I often forget things, so please remind me to call my mom later. Hopefully I'll remember then.
One person's memory needing a nudge. Nice. Finally, for verbs, we have wait versus stay.
Right. Wait means to pause your activity and remain somewhere until something happens.
Please wait here until your name is called. Or, I've been waiting for the bus. Expecting something to follow the pause.
Exactly. Stay means to remain in a particular location for a period of time without necessarily that same expectation of an imminent event.
Like you should stay indoors if the weather's bad. Just remaining in a place.
Precisely. So wait is pausing for an event. Stay is remaining in a location.
Last verb sentence challenge. Use both wait and stay.
Transcripts example. I'll wait for you at the entrance while you stay inside and finish your conversation.
One pauses for the other who's remaining inside. Phew! That was a workout with verbs. Ready to dive into some tricky adjectives.
Absolutely. Let's kick off with envious versus jealous. Both describe negative feelings about others, but the focus is different.
Okay. Envious is wanting something someone else has.
Exactly. She was envious of her neighbor's beautiful garden. It's longing for what they possess.
And jealous is fear of losing something you have.
Right. Because of someone else.
Yeah.
Insecurity. He was jealous when his partner started spending time with a new colleague. It's about protecting what's yours.
So envious is wanting their thing. Jealous is fearing losing your thing or person.
That's the core distinction. The transcript gives a good quiz. Mark felt of his friend's new promotion, and when his friend started collaborating closely with his own mentor.
Okay, he's envious of the promotion he wants in.
Right.
And jealous of the collaboration, fearing it might affect his relationship with his mentor.
Spot on. And remember the prepositions. Typically envious of something and jealous of someone or something.
Got it. Okay, let's look at two adjectives describing age-related behavior. Childish versus childlike. Very different connotations here.
Very different. Childlike has a positive connotation, suggests qualities like innocence, wonder, enthusiasm.
Like she has a childlike curiosity. It's charming.
Exactly. Childish, however, is negative. It implies immaturity, silliness in a bad way, behaving poorly like a young child.
His temper tantrum was quite childish, not charming.
Not at all. So childlike is positive innocence. Childish is negative immaturity.
The transcript's quiz clarifies. The artist's work had a simplicity, but his constant need for attention was rather
So the simplicity is
childlike, a charming quality. But the neediness is childish, an undesirable trait.
perfect.
Now, anxious versus eager. Both describe anticipation, but the feeling is different.
Right. Eager describes positive anticipation, excitement, enthusiasm about something coming up.
They were eager to start their vacation, looking forward to it.
Exactly. Anxious describes negative anticipation. Worry, nervousness, unease about a future event.
Like she felt anxious about her job interview, feeling stressed.
Right. So eager is positive anticipation. Anxious is negative worry.
The transcript gives us another quiz. The students were to receive their grades, but the teacher seemed a bit room-kenning them while handing them out.
Okay, students probably feeling.
Eager, maybe,
Yeah.
with anticipation. And the teacher might have been anxious about how the grades would be received.
That interpretation works well.
Right. Let's move on to age comparison.
Yeah.
Elder versus older. How do these differ?
Elder is primarily used for family members, specifically meaning born before another.
Okay.
My elder sister.
That's a bit formal.
It can, yeah. Older is more general, used for people and things to indicate greater age.
Yeah.
My older car. And interestingly, as the transcript points out, even with family, native speakers often just use older. Elder can sound a bit old-fashioned in everyday chat.
But elders plural is still used.
Yes, elders plural is common for older people, respected for wisdom in a community.
Okay. And the quiz reflects this nuance. He is the count of the two brothers, but his house is much than theirs. While elder is technically correct for the brother, many would just say older for both him and the house.
That's generally true for native speakers, yeah.
Now, effective versus efficient,
Yeah.
often used in professional contexts. What's the difference?
Okay. Effective means it works. It achieves the desired result. The new ad campaign was very effective in boosting sales.
It got the job done.
Right. Efficient means it achieves the result with minimal waste, time, money, effort.
So something can be effective, but not efficient.
Exactly. While the campaign was effective, it wasn't very efficient because it cost a fortune. So effective is about results. Efficient is about results with minimal waste.
Got it. The transcript gives another quiz. The study method is for memorizing vocabulary, but it's not very because it takes so much time.
So it works, but
It might be effective you learn the words, but not efficient if it takes ages.
precisely.
Now let's look at respectable versus respectful. Both relate to respect, but how?
Okay. Respectable describes someone or something worthy of respect. Due to character, achievements, status.
She's a highly respectable member of the community. Deserves respect.
Right. Respectful describes someone who shows respect towards others through their behavior.
The students were very respectful towards their teacher. They behaved respectfully.
Exactly. So respectable is deserving respect. Respectful is showing respect.
The transcript's quiz highlights this. The guest speaker was very talk-white, and the audience was very during his presentation.
So the speaker was.
Respectable, maybe famous, or accomplished. And the audience was respectful, attentive, polite.
Makes sense. Another quiz. Despite their differing opinions, they always engaged in debate and treated each other as colleagues.
Okay, the debate itself was respectful, showing regard.
Yes.
And they treated each other as respectable colleagues, acknowledging their professional standing.
That fits perfectly.
Okay, let's consider lonely versus alone. Both about being by oneself, but one's emotional.
Right. Lonely describes that feeling of sadness or isolation from lack of connection. It's a negative emotion.
Even if you're surrounded by people, you can feel lonely.
True. Alone simply describes the physical state of being by yourself. It's neutral.
She enjoys spending time alone, just being solitary.
Exactly. So lonely is a feeling of isolation. Alone is a state of being solitary.
The transcript offers another quiz. Working from home can sometimes make you feel on, even though you appreciate the chance to be and focus. Lack of interaction can make you feel lonely, even if you like being alone to concentrate.
Quick example.
Now, incredible versus incredulous. Both relate to belief, but in opposite ways.
Okay. Incredible means unbelievable in a positive sense. Amazing, fantastic.
An incredible victory, an incredible view.
Right. Incredulous describes someone who is unwilling or unable to believe something. Skeptical.
Like he gave me an incredulous look when I told him. Disbelieving.
Exactly. So incredible is amazing. Incredulous is disbelieving.
The transcripts quiz. The magician performed an air trick, leaving the audience completely interrupted.
So the trick was?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the audience was incredulous. They couldn't believe their eyes.
Perfect.
Right. Let's move on to famous versus infamous. Both mean widely known, but the reason is different.
Yes. Famous means widely known, usually for positive things, achievements, qualities.
A famous actress, a famous landmark.
Right. Infamous means well known for something bad, negative, scandalous.
An infamous criminal, an infamous disaster. And the transcript reminds us about pronunciation stress on the first syllable. Infamous.
Correct. Infamous. So famous is known for good, infamous for bad.
The transcripts quiz. The chef became for his innovative cuisine, but later became for his controversial business practices.
Ah.
Initially famous for cooking, later infamous for bad stuff.
Exactly.
Now, a tricky pair that sound identical, complementary with an I and complementary with an E. How do we keep these straight?
Okay. Complementary with an I, C-O-M-P-L-I, has two main meanings. First, given free of charge.
Like complimentary drinks.
Right. Second, expressing a compliment or praise. Complimentary remarks about my presentation, saying nice things.
Okay, free or praise. Got it. And with an E, C-O-M-P-L-E.
Complimentary, with an E, describes things that enhance each other or go well together. They complete each other, in a way.
Like the red wine was complimentary to the steak. They pair well.
Exactly, a harmonious pairing. So I for free or praise, E for things that go well together.
The transcripts quiz tests this. The museum offered us a ticket, and the guide's knowledge was truly to our understanding of the exhibit. The free ticket is complimentary with an E. The guide's knowledge enhancing understanding is complementary with an E.
Right on.
Okay, let's look at continual versus continuous. Both suggest repetition, but how does it differ?
Okay, continual means happening repeatedly, but with breaks or interruptions.
Like continual rain, it rains, stops, rains again, on and off.
Exactly, not constant. Continuous means happening without stopping, ongoing, no interruptions.
The continuous flow of traffic, nonstop.
Right, so continual has breaks, continuous is nonstop. The transcript acknowledges that sometimes, like, the baby's crying was exhausting. Either could technically work depending on the exact nature of the crying.
Yeah, was it nonstop or just frequent?
Exactly. But the transcript offers a quiz designed for a clearer distinction. The dripping of the faucet was annoying, while the noise from the construction site made it impossible to concentrate.
Okay, the dripping would likely be continual. Drip, pause, drip.
Probably.
And the construction noise is probably continuous, just a constant barrage.
That seems the most logical fit, yeah.
Finally, for adjectives, let's look at fun versus funny. Both positive, but different kinds of enjoyment.
Right. Fun describes something enjoyable, something that gives pleasure.
We had a fun day at the beach, had a good time.
Exactly. Funny describes something that causes amusement or laughter.
The comedian's jokes were really funny, made you laugh.
Right. So fun is enjoyable, funny makes you laugh. The transcript rightly points out you probably wouldn't call a serious concert funny, though it might be fun to attend.
Makes sense. The final adjective quiz. The party was so because the host told so many stories. The party itself was fun, enjoyable. And the reason was the funny stories that made people laugh.
Perfect sense.
Wow, we have truly plunged into a deep dive of these confusing English words today. Hopefully this exploration has, illuminated the nuances for you listening.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to remember, as our source material highlighted, that even native English speakers can occasionally stumble over these words. It's really normal.
Yeah, definitely. It's an ongoing aspect of language learning, so don't be discouraged if some of these distinctions still need a bit of thought.
Take a moment now, maybe reflect on which of these word pairs or groups surprised you the most, or which ones you've personally found tricky in the past.
Yeah, just identifying those areas is a big step towards mastering them.
And this brings up a key question for you, our listener. How might a deeper understanding of these, seemingly subtle vocabulary differences actually enhance your ability, not just to comprehend native speakers better, but also to express your own thoughts and ideas with more precision, more confidence?
That's a great thought. We encourage you to actively notice these words now, in your future reading and listening. See them in action.
Definitely. The English language is, Well, it's a vast and constantly evolving landscape. The journey of learning it is continuous.
It really is. We sincerely hope this deep dive has served as a valuable tool in your exploration, providing some clarity and maybe a few of those rewarding aha moments.